There will be heavy spoilers discussed in this video, so if you haven't played the Final Fantasy VII Remake, or you plan to play the Final Fantasy VII Remake and you don't want to be spoiled, now would probably be a good time to click away from the video. So, the other two people that I want to discuss the Final Fantasy VII Remake with in all of its aspects, I have my friend Mia here. Hello, Mia.
Hello.
And
Hello.
I have...
How are you doing?
I am fantastic. And I have Slap.
What's up?
So, I guess to kick this off, like, what are your general feelings of the Final Fantasy VII Remake? Because there were a lot of old school Final Fantasy VII fans that they were like, yo, I've been waiting over 20 years, and it's not a one-to-one remake? Oh my god, Square blew it. Let's make a change.org petition to let them know how unsatisfied I am with... That's real, by the way. Someone actually did that.
That's actually real.
That's actually real.
Wow.
And so there are some people that are very upset that it is not a one-to-one remake, that it's not the old 1997 Final Fantasy VII with just updated graphics. What are your thoughts about that?
I can understand people being upset, I guess, if you had not watched a trailer or completely avoided everything to do with this game before it came out. But, I mean, all of the media surrounding this game pretty much told you it was not going to be a one-to-one remake of the original Final Fantasy VII.
I think that's the part that blew me away, is because it was never being advertised as a one-to-one remaster. It wasn't like the Final Fantasy VIII remaster where they were just like, oh look, we got the source code back. Bling! It was always kind of being advertised as, it's the Final Fantasy story remade.
I think that was one of the things they did too, because they were sneaky with the ad campaign. They really were, because when they released the imagery, the trailer, and all of that, and all of us collectively lost our minds, they only showed the opening scene of him jumping off the train, etc. Zoom out view of Midgar, and then a few poster shots of Aerith by the pipe with the Mako coming out. It's like, oh my god, it looks just like it did in the original. But the more information came out, the more people started to get scared that it wasn't going to be a one-for-one. But I mean, I feel like I play devil's advocate a lot. I feel like they're right to be a little upset, but they're wrong to not accept it. And the group that's just like, hell yeah, give me more, is just riding this train super hard.
Yeah. I'm conflicted, because it's like the old version, you can get it anywhere on any platform. I mean, graphically it might not hold up, but it's not like it's completely gone and it's like you can only play it on PS1. This thing is on PS4, it's on Steam, it's on the Switch, it's on your mobile phone. It's literally everywhere. So you can still enjoy the story that you loved so much as a kid, but this is I don't know. It feels weird that people are so upset that it's not a one-to-one to me.
Yeah, I think I can kind of feel why you would be upset over that, because one of the big major draws of getting into this game is wanting to see all of those things from the original recontextualized and shown with this fantastic new graphics and new art direction and just a new vision of seeing it how you imagined it in your head 20 years ago when you think back with rose tinted glasses, but I think the departure from this now, I think it all has to do, I think it would be fine. I think the changes in the game would be fine if the ending didn't make the statement that the ending has made, which is just the opportunity for them to go forward and do anything now.
Yeah.
I think the uncertainty is what is upsetting people. Because Final Fantasy VII, the original, that's safe. Everybody knows it. It's safe. You know the story. You know exactly what it is. It's a fantastic game, and that's great. But if they change things, this is all new. This is all this is untrodden like ground. So it leaves it open for Square Enix just to potentially ruin it. So I think that plays a big part in people's like worries and being upset over it not being a one-to-one remake.
They definitely need to be careful moving forward.
Oh yeah.
Because as much as I'm rooting for them, if the implications of the ending are what every spin foil hat wearing player, kind of secretly hopes, I guess, is they need to be careful because there are so many events riding on that ending's change.
Oh yeah.
That it's I have a feeling that this will be broken up into a hell of a lot more than like, let's say episode 2 or 3. Like,
yeah, I feel like they're gonna need at least 4 games total. At least. Yeah. That's at least.
If game 1 was 40 hours and in the original it took 5 to get out of Midgar,
yeah,
we're gonna need a lot more games.
That's actually a fair jump off point. Because one of the things about Final Fantasy VII's Remake, I think everybody noticed, was there is a lot of padding in terms of the way that the dungeons all roll out. Instead of, say, the trek to, what was it, the Wall Market. That's like one screen in the OG one. But in the remake, it's a 3-hour dungeon. There are robot arm mechanics, which is
the most frustrating thing in the game.
Yeah,
oh my God,
I was trying not to use some of the harshest expletives I could, but yes, it's super annoying. And I'm not sure how, there's a part of me that kind of likes the fact that these areas that were kind of just done in the original are getting fleshed out a little bit, and you see a little bit more of them, and it kind of builds the world up. But at the same time, it's like, man, I just spent 3 hours in something that was, in the original. It took, less than a minute to get through, and how do you feel about the padding and the pace of the remake?
I'm extremely conflicted with it because on one hand, seeing all of these places, again, realized and just being made to look so fantastic. I mean, in some places, other places not so much. I'm not sure if you'll have the same kind of texture issues on your playthroughs.
Oh,
I did on mine.
You mean when you're way above Sector 7 and looking down, and it's just like a flat 2D image?
Well, not just that, weird loading pop-ins sometimes, and textures not loading in, so they remain low resolution in some instances. It's super weird. Maybe that was just an error with me, but or the problem with the Unreal Engine. But
I don't specifically recall any sort of issues like that. I don't doubt that they happen, but like I said, the ones I specifically remember is when you're going to all those giant light reactors and you look down, and it's just this flat 2D thing, or when you look down on Sector 7 after it had been destroyed, it's this sort of flat just image, and it's just, I mean, they've said that maybe in the PC version that'll all be retextured and HD'd and stuff, but it's just those two moments specifically, I was just oh man, this could have been a lot more impactful, and it kind of felt like it took a little bit away from just how significant those moments were.
Yeah, it does feel like it's a limitation of the hardware that it's on at the moment, and in terms of design as well, having those long corridors, it just feels like a lot of that, a lot of the extension is hiding, loading things into the future, because for what it is, besides from the massive loading screens into chapters, it's a pretty, seamless experience, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I will say that, for sure. The transitions, I didn't get any lag. I don't know about anybody else, but I really didn't get any, performance hiccups, per se, aside from, the textures loading, and it was only two. I think it's the same 2 spots you were just talking about, DK, that pulled me out a little bit. And it's all of this is great, and then obviously slamming my head up against a door that lacks HD textures the entire game. But they did a really good job though with the transitions and the loading screens. because you barely noticed them. They were just all talking points, albeit slightly drawn out at times, but still pretty seamless. And then touching back on the expanded areas, it is very give and take, and I agree with Mia 100% on that. Because some areas did not need this hardcore revamping, but other areas definitely benefited from it, like the train graveyard, for example.
Oh yeah, I actually really enjoyed retraversing the train graveyard and getting a little like there was actually a story there, and there were actually kids, and you know they played a part in the story, and so yeah.
I like what they've done with actual monsters in this world as well, that they've actually kind of given them like agency in certain areas. What was once like a random battle, and they didn't really have any kind of like lore connotations in the original that much, other than just being an enemy you fight. Now they seem to have a place in the world,
like Hell House.
Like Hell House.
Like Hell House. I remember I
had no
I was streaming the OG Final Fantasy VII, and we got to the Hell House, and I remember Chad was just like, "Why are you fighting a house?" And I'm like, "I don't know, dude. It's quirky Japanese RPGs. Like, I'm fighting a house. It's shooting missiles." And so there's no reason for it, but in the remake, there's actually kind of sort of a reason for it. It's, you know, it gets a little more context.
It never occurred to me that it could be a machination in the original. I thought it was like a literal Hell House, and maybe that's just like maybe that's like graphical limitations of the time, but like I just thought it was some kind of like another monster like everything else. I had no idea that it was actually a robotic house, because that context isn't really there in the original, unless no, it's
100% not. Yeah. They make it just look like a possessed house that you're fighting.
Yep. And I mean, the original Final Fantasy VII had some weird monster designs. Like, they're good and they're memorable, but they had some real weird ones. And that the remake actually found a way to put all of those weirdly designed monsters in a way that made sense to the remake story was actually pretty impressive. Like, when you fought these crazy-looking monsters, it made sense in the area that you fought them and the context of the story and why you were doing it. So,
yeah, that was definitely a good touch. Location-based, changing everything. Like when you're in the sewers fighting the Sahagin, for example. Like, where else would you fight them? That was perfect to put them there. And then all the little creatures that were in the subway, for example, like all of them, like the bug dudes, whatever the hell they were. Oh, name's slipping away from me, but fighting them in the subway and like their nests and such was like that made sense.
I forget what they're called too, but like they had a queen, like the
yeah.
They were super annoying to fight. Yep.
Some augers in the junkyard. Like it made sense to put them where they were, and they weren't just sprinkled around. And I don't even want to remember the random encounter hell that was the OG running through Midgar at that point, but having complete control of the fights that you actually got into was chef's kiss, dude. I loved it. I loved being able to control when I was going into conflict.
I also really love the fact that the Mako mutants were actually like enemies, instead of just being like these abominations in like the Nibelheim reactor, and you just kind of look at it and it's like, it's so spooky, but they never actually do anything.
That's what I wanted to talk about really quick. You're talking about how like they're weird, right? Like grotesque creatures. The remaster does such a good job of explaining how Mako affects organisms.
Oh yeah.
You get like one or two lines from like flashbacks in memory, and then another couple lines from Hojo talking about like the experiments and such. But in the remaster, you like between Cloud's brain lapses and his fractured memories, and then traversing the underground labs, traversing certain areas that are heavily infested with Mako, you get actual dialogue about how they even ended up that way. That was huge to me.
Oh, yeah.
Are we going all in on OG spoilers here as well? Just for clarification.
Oh yeah, I mean we put the spoiler warning at the beginning, so we spoil it up.
Yeah, so if you haven't completed the original, go and play that too, I guess.
Oh, definitely. I feel like
that's kind of a prerequisite at this point.
Oh yeah. I feel like that's another thing that's going to be real nice is like there are going to be people that never played the original Final Fantasy VII. and they're gonna be jumping into this one, and it's like, wow, that was really cool. I wonder what the original one was like. I wonder, I wonder where they're gonna deviate from the original one, and I feel like the OG Final Fantasy VII is gonna see a bit of a resurgence because of this. Obviously, there's sort of, one is gonna feed off the other, but yeah.
Do you think this game is actually new player friendly for like lore wise? Because like I can't imagine the confusion on some people's, like a new player's faces that doesn't know what the world of Final Fantasy VII is when they see a anthropomorphic cat in despair over the top of the Sector 7 plate falling down.
Until you said that, I hadn't really thought about a new player's experience with the remake. But actually, I feel like the remake would be real tough if you hadn't already played the original, because so much of the new story that they put in with the Whispers is like, oh, hey, look, boom, flashback from this story that you already know. And it's like, oh, hey, look, there's this meteor showering down, and why is this important? Why is it important that Cloud sees Sephiroth as a meteor is destroying the ever-loving shit out of Midgar? Why are they talking about fate? Why are they talking about destiny? Why do I see all these clips? So actually, it might be a little difficult for someone who's never been introduced to like the original Final Fantasy VII to really grasp a lot of what's going on in the remake. And also, yeah, as the pizza's falling on Sector 7, just, oh hey, it's a plushy cat. What is he doing? Like, why is who the what? I mean, it's a cute little guy, but like, you don't know that that's Reeve at that point. You don't know that that's why he's looking at that. You don't know why that's why he's in such despair. But yeah, it would be a little challenging for someone who's never played a Final Fantasy VII game to like get it.
Well, definitely brings up a good point.
That whole scene was a little bit weird to me. I felt like it lost some of the levity from the original. Like, it was this really cool action music playing as the plate drops, and like you're going down swinging on the rope, which is it's similar to the original, but it's like a line now instead of just like a swinging rope.
Yeah.
But like in the original, it just, I don't know if I'm remembering it incorrectly, but it just seemed more somber, and like it didn't really like hit in the same way in this new one, just because it like it was presented more actiony, I guess, at the time until the aftermath. But like the whole thing that they changed with that too, like having so many more survivors than in the original. Like there are key moments in this game that felt like they lost the same kind of punch. Yeah, I guess.
So it was funny, after Sector 7 dropped, Barrett was like, "Oh, yo, we got to go back. We got to find the bodies." And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, "Yo, you don't want to do that. Like, a plate just fell on your sector. If you find your buddies, it's gonna be bits and pieces of just mangled, crushed flesh, and that's a hell you don't want to see your friend's body in." So, and then when they go back, it's just like there's so many survivors, and it almost, I hate to say this, it almost doesn't seem so bad. And I feel like that's kind of the point of Sector 7 dropping, is because it's like it is this catastrophic, holy shit, this is the depth that Shinra will go to sort of like, weed out Avalanche, or that's their ends justify the means thing. And it was just, there's so many survivors, and it seemed like most of the people were fine, and it was just like it did lose a little bit from the OG one. But I will say, at the beginning of the game, I took every opportunity to look up and see just like the scale of the plate, just waiting for that moment to happen. And then when it does happen, looking up and just seeing the empty little space for it. And because in the OG, you don't really get the scope and scale of what the plate, what the model of Midgar looks like, but you don't really get to see it. And I feel like it was, for like the first half of the game, that shit haunted me. Because I would just look up and I'm like, oh shit, all of that's gonna fall.
Just for the benefit of the people listening as well, Slap just linked the Final Fantasy VII original OG cutscene, and there is no music. It's literally just the sounds of the screams of the people as the plate comes falling down, and the sounds of the actual plate falling. So yeah, big difference.
Yeah, there's a big somber note in that 55-second cutscene that is very much so missing from the remaster. Just, and like, I get it. They wanted to really bump up the cinematic aspect of it, but there's just, I remember going through this the first time and just sitting there and thinking like, oh man, I thought the good guy always wins.
Yep.
But we didn't, you know. It's
the bad guy definitely won there, and it does feel like there's way more of a punch to the original one.
Yeah, it does. Like, the only other things I would say is, like, at certain points in the game, it does feel like some of the agency is kind of stolen from Avalanche as well, like some of the questioning that you do. For instance, the first bombing mission where they literally play the hand straight away, that Shinra is like setting up things to be worse than they are. Like, Jesse's bomb actually wasn't created to blow up a whole reactor; it was just made to like disable it and cause mayhem. For Shinra, but Shinra decides to destroy the entire reactor instead, and you don't know that in the original. Like, you get a kind of like a slight like hint at that when you go back to the base, and like Jesse's like, I don't know what I did wrong.
Yeah.
Like, why did it was a bigger explosion than I thought. But like, I actually really like the way that they played that up in this too. Like, with her constantly talking about it afterwards. It's like blaming herself and going on that whole other mission with the blasting agent too, just because of that. But I still feel like showing that so early on, it's like, okay, these are the bad guys. You're taking a little bit away from the characters of Avalanche and whether or not, like, questioning, well, are you the good guys or are you the bad guys? Because what you did just screwed up a whole lot of stuff for a whole lot of people. But in this version, oh no, it was Shinra that did that. That's like, they just think it's them. Yeah.
What you learn in the first hour of the remaster takes upwards of 4 to 5 to learn in the original, and it's just it does. I didn't really think about it before you said it, but I agree. It takes a lot away from it, but at the same time, it also gives rise to the character development, like you said, with Jessie just constantly being in turmoil over the whole bit. Like, there's a few moments where if you're just standing next to her without moving, she'll just keep murmuring to herself, like, what did I do wrong? And I think that hits home in a different way. And I think that's why they went that direction, because they're also trying to condense more information. Like, it took so long to do in the original, but...
Yeah, it did seem like a very, like, linear and the, like, certain parts of this game, for all the padding, did seem, like, very, like, fast-forwarded and kind of linear. Like, there's less in the remaster, like you're saying with the whole Shinra HQ section. Like, I know nobody really wants to do the library puzzle for Mayor, what's his name? Mayor something or another? I can't remember his name.
He's the best.
The mayor is the best.
Yep.
But like, that
Mr.
turns
Domino.
into like a... Yes, Mayor Domino, thank you. That turns into like a simple, like, go find a person mission rather than, like, figuring out a password from a bunch of different books. Like, even on my playthrough, like, I played through recently, like, within the last 6 months, the original Final Fantasy VII, I still had trouble, like, with the password stuff. Because I think I hadn't played it for, like, 15 years before that, and I could not remember a lot. But, like, comparing that to this, it's like there doesn't seem to be like that level of, okay, I guess interesting quests. That's one of the only things I would say it's.
I'm curious. Do you think they did that because they felt the original Shinra HQ was too boring? In the sense that there are a lot of little puzzles and mini games to do in the original Shinra HQ. And by and large, the remake isn't really about solving puzzles. It's more about the action. It's more about getting into that combat and feeling that flow. And I feel like that's what they were trying to accomplish with, like, okay, we're just going to speed past Shinra HQ. We're just going to go right to Hojo. I was about to call it Hojo's Dojo, but it's not a dojo. And that's why they, like, stretched out Hojo's little science lab experiment room, is because it's like, oh, there are tons of fights. We can put a lot of the freaky, creepy enemies that people remember and can reminisce on. You got the long, snaky boys. You got the armored guys, and you got.
I can't believe they did the whack-a-mole enemies whose names I forget.
They did the whack-a-mole enemies. So, and they could put a lot of little nostalgic touches in it. Whereas if they had kept to like the one-to-one, it's like, here's a puzzle, here's another boring puzzle. I shouldn't say boring because they're not boring, they're puzzles from the original one, but I feel like they would have felt like the flow almost gets like driven to a halt, where they're like at this high speed, high octane, we're going, we're fighting, we're killing, and then
it does feel like I did think going into the Shinra HQ that it would be more like another central hub where you would get side quests. Kind of. I was kind of thinking the other areas in the game. Yeah. And I suppose it was a little bit of a letdown that it was that more linear, just take you right through. But like all the content within the Shinra HQ is fantastic.
Oh
like,
yeah.
But besides from the party switching, which I wasn't a huge fan of, I like the idea and concept, but that there's a lot of mechanic stuff there with like materia that I wasn't so keen on. But
God, I don't even want to talk about materia.
Do we want to get into the battle system?
I was gonna say, if we're having this reaction, I think we should talk about the combat and the battle mechanics.
I think you can finish your thought, and then we'll go hard on the battle.
I mean, I was kind of done with it. I was just gonna say it was nice that they put the PHS terminal back in. But so
that's a fun little reference.
Yeah, man, the combat in this game, it's another one of those like I'm conflicted because like when you're really in the thick of the combat, the sort of action-oriented combat, it feels really good and it feels great. But there are just these little touches that drive me crazy. We've all talked about the bound system, which just infuriates me to no end. We get it. You want us to not only be Cloud, you want us to switch from person to person to person. Okay, cool. But the amount of times you get bound is insane. I had a moment where I think it was one of the dogs I was fighting. The dog would tackle me, and it binds you, and it's like, okay, fine, cool. I gotta switch to Tifa. Tifa, punch this dog in the face and free me. You did? Great. Switch back to Cloud. Boom. Bound. Again. Okay, let me just switch back to Tifa. I'll stay as Tifa for a little while. Okay, cool. You know, one dog down. Let me go ahead and switch back to Cloud. Boom. Bound again. It's like, oh boy. And then when you're not worrying about being bound, you're worrying about getting put to sleep. You're worrying about being paralyzed. And there are materials that will stop sleep and paralysis and stuff like that. But just the bind system was so infuriating with how often it happened. And to me, it just felt awful when it happened at the rate that it did.
Yeah, I kind of was a little bit frustrated by that as well, but like I got used to just like switching off straight away and just using a different character for a little bit. I think the issue there is like forcing you to switch out, or like forcing you to watch a cutscene. I think if the game like automatically at that point just switch you out after you got bound, if you didn't like switch after a couple of seconds, I think that would be fine. Yeah. Like, I don't mind the bound mechanic so much as, because like again, it seems like it's implemented there to encourage you to
not just be Cloud.
Party member. What's frustrating about the bound mechanic is when you're playing as a single character. Like, I think the only time that really happens is the escape from Sector 1 or Sector 2? I'm not sure. Whichever sector after the first bombing mission, anyway. And like you come across
Sector 8, yeah.
Sector 8, that's it. Thank you. You come across like guard dogs, and like instantly you can be bound, and it's like, okay, this isn't fun. And like, there's two guard dogs here, both are bounding me one after the other, and I can't do anything about it because I don't have characters to switch off to. So I'll just sit here and get attacked. That was also frustrating.
To me, it felt like switching didn't feel like something I naturally wanted to do. It felt like something I was like forced to do. And I think that's where like the big disconnect happened. And I don't know, maybe if it was just an auto switch from the bound, it would feel much more natural. But it just, it always felt like I was being forced to switch. Instead of being like, oh, don't you want to naturally switch to Tifa because she's got better this, that, and whatever? Or don't you want to naturally switch to Barrett because he's the tank? It just felt like I was always being put in these situations where I was like, boom, you're going to switch, now, do it! And it's like, oh, Chill, game. Chill.
I feel like the game definitely encourages switching of characters. It definitely wants you to do that. I started to notice, I don't know if you all noticed that whenever I switched a character, like, at least for a while, like, the enemies would start focusing to specifically.
Yeah.
And so, like, during the last couple of boss battles, I'm literally just, like, bouncing from one character, setting up an ability, bouncing to another character until they start focusing that character, then move on to somebody else. Because, like, there's a weird tiny cooldown, I guess, that you can kind of take advantage of mechanically, where they will start focusing a character and then they will do a couple attacks before they switch off to a different one. So you're kind of like taking advantage of the fact that they want you to switch off, I guess, with that focusing mechanic that the enemies have. So by the end of the game, I was literally just like switching from one to the other, except for Barrett, because he was the best tank. And
oh god, yeah, Barrett, such a good. You put a melee weapon on him, and oh my god, he turns into a steamroller. It's crazy.
That's really I think it's a good point though. The whole like, if it was automatic, I don't think I would have had nearly as much of a problem with it. But the enemies definitely hone in on whoever you're controlling, and I can't tell you how many times I would use a character as bait just to swap characters back at it to get an attack lined up or something like that. But the whole single being alone and then being in certain conflict was just spelled death, and hard mode became more apparent in that situation. I don't know if either of you have started hard mode or plan on playing hard mode, but I'll tell you right now, the lack of using items, like you don't have items, is the scariest thing. And because of like the bind system, the heavy reliance on materia, and I don't even want to talk about flying enemies.
Oh yeah,
the combat only gives it will not get max points for me, because they definitely fleshed out the whole, hey, I heard you like playing as Cloud. It'd be a shame if I made you switch off Cloud. And then you go to Tifa, who's already asleep still because there's another enemy who put her to sleep. So go to the third character.
That would be fine if a character you switch to who's supposed to be a ranged character could get off attacks. I did not use Aerith for a big majority of the game because trying to keep her at a distance from enemies seemed to be impossible for me. Like, as soon as they started focusing her down, they'd be all over her, and I'd have to like run to her little like skippy dodge and just try and like set up abilities. Like, her cast time is a little bit long as soon as she starts getting focused. Like, setting up certain attacks, especially with like 2 ATB bars, was like impossible.
Her AI was an idiot too. You just mentioned trying to keep her out of conflict just so you can take advantage of her range. I didn't really start giving a shit about Aerith until Shinra Tower and fighting the Genova Dreamweaver.
Yep.
I pretty much mained her the entire time in that, because every time I switched off her, she's trying to give the damn thing a hug.
Yep. That was one of the things I found. The AI was real bad. Unless you specifically put on like the support materials, like the auto cures or the... I forget what all the other ones were. They would just kind of do really dumb things. They wouldn't use abilities. They wouldn't use their spells. If you use a Phoenix down on them and they have like 10 HP, yo, let me go rush in on that boss that just dunked on me, yo. And it's like, no, could you just hang back, bro? Like, just sit back there for a second so I can pop a Kiraga off on you or something.
They got a message, bro. They need to deliver it.
Yeah, they sure do. But like, if they just... I wished there was some way, and this is gonna fuel a lot of people saying, well, what is this, Kingdom Hearts? I really wish there was some way where you could better affect what the AI did in terms of be stupid aggressive, stick back, use healing spells if you got them, use your MP, conserve your MP, something like that, just so that like I don't have to have this just panic attack when one of the characters goes down, because I immediately know if I revive him, I have to immediately switch to them and make sure they don't get themselves killed again.
Which becomes a pain too, because then they'll get targeted by the enemies you're fighting.
Yeah. I'm going to say something which could potentially be unpopular, but I feel like this game actually needs a paradigm system from Final Fantasy 13, like allowing you to like switch out, or just like switching out characters as well, but like allowing you to like switch up the way that the AI interacts in battle would be fantastic. I was thinking more so for like materia would have been great, because I can't tell you how many times I went into battle forgetting to equip the assess materia when it like forces you to use a different party member or something. Like switching chapters, and or like assessing and then realizing, oh no, that particular character has an item that can only be gotten now and only be stolen now. If you've got steel on and it's a special weapon for Aerith, and it's like, oh okay, well I forgot to equip steel, so I guess I'll have to reload the chapter or something. Like I didn't reload because it was like when you reload, I think when you reload the fight, it puts you back at the start of the fight and doesn't actually let you equip materia. So some of the loading there was just a massive pain. Like the whole materia system, going back to how we initially got onto this, I love it, but I also hate it so much. Like and not allowing loadouts, I think, is one of the biggest like mistakes in this game, and I really want to see that going forward. It's like that. It's just frustrating not to have the option of using certain materia if you run into battle and just don't have the right stuff equipped. Like it makes it so much harder.
It felt like there was almost an overdependence on materia in the remake. Like you had to have the right materia on, otherwise you were gonna have a bad time. Not to say that in the original, like, you know, materia mattered and it helped, but it feels like the remake really punishes you if you don't have the very specific elemental properties that you need. And I remember in one of Slap's streams, he said it felt a lot like Pokemon, because it's all about the type matchups. If you don't have the right type matchup and you don't have the super effective element, well, this fight's going to take you 3 hours when it could have taken you 5 minutes.
There's one specific enemy that I think pops up twice. One in the like battle arenas, and another, either in the battle arena or the VI missions. But like you fight it in a side quest in the Sector 5 slums with the like Angel of the Slums side quest. It's just that big Smogger like variant, a big yellow one with the wrecking ball, and it's like, unless you have lightning equipped, you cannot stagger that thing. It's impossible to stagger that thing, and it will take you the best part of 20 minutes just to kill it. So yeah, it's incredibly frustrating to deal with fights knowing that you have the wrong stuff equipped.
I love the dependence on materia, but I hate the necessity of it. Like I really enjoyed that materia felt special, and your loadouts felt powerful. Like it's one of those power fantasy things where it's like if you built yourself up right, you actually felt like you were doing something. But good God, catch yourself in the wrong situation with the wrong materia, and that fight just became hell for you.
Oh yeah.
Every side quest boss, like the Wrathhound in the beginning of the game, as the perfect example, was stupid hard if you didn't even prepare for it properly. And it's like, okay, well, that's the beginning of the game. Then every Cerulean Drake became an issue too. Then every Smogger became an issue. The little floating eyeball thing variants, those became an issue if you didn't have the right. It was just like, oh, okay. And then not having loadouts made it worse.
I think it, like, loadouts would have helped, but it's like you go into these fights and you're not exactly sure what to expect. Like, sure, if you go into a fight against a boss you know is called the Ice Demon or something, okay, cool, I can prepare for fire. But if it's just like, you're gonna go fight, you know, Robot B, maybe lightning, maybe not. I don't know what to bring, so you have to first trial and experiment with these things and be like, okay, now that I've assessed it, I can get dunked on in this fight or somehow clutch it out, and then once I'm dead, then I can properly prepare for it. And it just, it felt really strange. I don't know if... Also, I feel like in the original, maybe, like, you can equip so much fucking material in the original one that you're always ready for everything, too. So, I don't know, maybe I'm just so used to that and being ready for every situation and having every single element that it feels weird when it's like this.
I think it's like overall. I mean, these are all kind of nitpicks. Like, I think it's like a good system what they have. I just don't think they've like ironed out all the kinks yet, and I'm really hoping that they do so in the second and in the follow up to this. Do you think there was enough materia, like in terms of variation in the game?
You know, I feel like there was way too much green and not enough of the pink support ones.
There is nearly no blue and no way to get more blue. That frustrated the heck out of me.
The fact that there was like one magnify, or was it two? I think it was like one magnify, two elementals. Which I get why they made elementals so sparse, because they are ridiculously good. So I get that. But only one magnify felt really weird, and I don't know, I just felt like there wasn't enough of that support material, like the auto cures and stuff like that, that would make the AI do things that felt useful to you. But yeah, it felt like there was just so much offensive magic that it just... Yeah.
The lack of agency that the AI actually had, you definitely noticed not having more auto cures or auto items, because there was only one auto item and one auto cure. And if you didn't have a heal bot, you're pretty much screwed on that.
Yep.
Wait, there's an auto item? I didn't even find that. Where is that from?
I don't remember where I got it from, but there is an auto item.
Interesting.
Yeah, like it.
Actually, I have a question for Slap, if you don't mind. In hard mode, is that like a new game plus? Do you find like extra? Do you bring in the stuff from the old game? Do you find more materia, or is it like a fresh start?
Yes, to all but the fresh start. So hard mode is a full-on new game plus. Once you hit max level, completing side quests and certain missions will give you more points to upgrade your weapons and such along the way. So that's how you get more upgrade points as you progress once you hit max level. But you get the option or the opportunity to get multiple of other materia that you could only get once in a playthrough. So example, the auto cure. You could probably get another one of those down the line at the same spot you got the first one, but it has to be in another playthrough.
Wait, so you can totally get two magnifies then if you're playing through on hard mode?
I don't know about the blue materia, because my chat, some folks from my community that were playing the hard mode were like, yeah, I got doubles of all of this other stuff, but I can't find another one of these. So like the magnify, the elementals, I've been using. I don't even use the elementals on my weapons in my playthrough now. I put them on my armor for defensive purposes. Yeah. And it's just like, and someone, I think it was you or someone who watches you, the deadly dodge connected to the blue materia to give you the health back on the...
You know what's great about that?
Oh, really?
Mia told me about that, and then I told you about that after I was, like, baffled about it.
Yeah, it was DK who told me. I was like,
it was every... Like, that news passed from Mia to me to you.
I was like, no way! I gotta try this now. You have no idea how many times that actually saved me in hard mode. Because in hard mode, when you get bound, it's a death sentence if you're by yourself. 100%. Because what used to hit you for like 20 or 30 is now hitting you for like 400 or 500, and you're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll just die. And
yeah.
How does that get a lot more frustrating then? Do the problems with the combat in general just become completely frustrating in the hard mode, or is there still a nice balance there?
Because you have a fresh look going into those fights. Like I use the Wrathhound as an example a lot because it's just a really beefy dog that has the ability to bind you.
That's the junkyard fight, right?
Yeah, the first side quest boss that you fight is this hound.
The one that goes into fury and can't be like staggered.
Full disclosure, even while blocking, he hits you for 1200.
Holy Jesus.
So when you're fighting him for the first time on hard mode, he steamrolled the shit out of me at least 3 times.
I'm sure.
But he binds you and takes at least a full third of your health, and I'm running around with characters that have 6,000 to 7,000 health, so he's hitting me hard. And it's just like, oh, okay, but you know more about the materia and how it works, so you're more prepared for it, and it's like the normal game prepares you for hard mode in a way that you didn't think it would, but it all kind of like drip fed content as reminders. You're like, oh, I got this now. I can do this. And then it's just like, it's interesting. I recommend giving it a shot, at least the first chapter or two, just to see how you like it. Because the lack of items makes it more enjoyable, actually, because you have to heal up and do management that way with your materia in between fights.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I came into this discussion really enjoying Final Fantasy VII Remake, and now that we're talking about all the intricacies, I'm realizing how, like, almost negative I feel about, like, the mechanics and some of the intricacies about it. And how many, like, little problems are starting to spout up now that I'm, like, thinking back on it, and I'm thinking about, like, the overall experience. Because in the moment, I was like, yo, this is the dopest shit I've ever seen. And now, thinking back, I just like, it wasn't quite the perfect game that I remembered it was.
It's definitely not perfect, but I mean, I will say it, like, I enjoyed the heck out of it. Like, in terms of, like, what a remake could have been and how badly it could have gone, like, this surpassed my wildest expectations.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that's maybe why, like, we're tearing it apart so much as well, because, like, we have I imagine each of us really have a love for this game in terms of, like, Final Fantasy, even as a series, like, specifically Final Fantasy VII. Like, I mean, for me growing up, it was always like, it was the first game I ever got on PlayStation, and it was like a game changer as far as I'm concerned. So, like, I'm massively in love with the original Final Fantasy VII. So I think that's probably why, because we've been very negative so far.
We have.
Yeah,
we can talk about the things we love. I'll tell you right now, get that out of the way. Barring fights and all of that stuff, like, visually speaking, the game's a masterpiece. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh yeah.
Right. The character development, like, I think I talked about this with you, Mia, in one of my streams, actually. The fact that they fleshed out the Avalanche members, namely Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse, so much in this game has given me so much appreciation for those three characters. Far above what I would have expected from literally any other character.
I almost lost it at the Sector 7 dropping of the plate as you go up and you have to interact with. First, you see Wedge after he falls, and it's like, oh, great, that's not what I wanted to see. And then you see Biggs, and it's like, oh, Biggs, Jesus Christ. And then Jesse, who is so thirsty for Cloud's dick. But then that, and it's just like, God, and they really did do a good job of fleshing it out with, like, little side quests where you get to know Jesse's mom, how tightly connected all of the members of Avalanche are with Jesse's mom, who is probably dead because she lived on the top of Sector 7. But and
that's one thing you didn't see. That's like, like, you think about it though afterwards, you're like, oh God, yeah, Jesse's parents, they're gone too.
They're gone.
Everyone's
totally
dead,
gone.
dude.
Yep, well, almost everybody's dead.
I
Wedge
can't imagine
apparently
we ran
survived.
into the upper plates to tell him to get out of there. So everybody on the top of the plate is dead. Like, definitely.
Yep. So yeah, they did a good job of making you care about the side characters, because in the original one, like, when Biggs, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse died, like, yeah, it was sad, but, like, I didn't really feel that invested in them, so I was like, oh, okay, whatever, the side characters are gone, yada, yada, yada. It's way more important that there's a plate being dropped on us. But this time it was like, it was kind of a weepy moment, so they did do a good job of fleshing out those side characters.
So I don't think it was just, like, the side characters, though. It was the world in general. And I will say, like, they've done an incredible job, because, like, in the original, I thought Jesse was a boy until my last playthrough. Like, when I was younger, I had no idea Jessie was a girl. Like, they're like, you're just looking at, like, polygons back then. And I didn't put 2 and 2 together with like the dialogue and stuff, I guess. But yeah, but, like, it's the whole world that they've created. Everything seems so much more real and lived in now. Like, the Sector 7 slums aren't just like a small area. They're like this wide, expansive area with NPCs that have dialogue and they talk about what's going on. And every time you come back, they've got something new to say about what's going on too. It's like this honestly feels like the most like recorded pieces of dialogue I've ever heard in a game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure
It's
how many other
definitely up
RPGs do the same thing, but like this is the first experience I've had with like NPCs that would react.
Like
And
after
not
every
talking to you
side
either.
quest, too. Every side quest even had an update to their dialogue.
Yeah.
Because when you first get to Sector 7 and you're running around with Tifa, they have no idea who you are. And like one of the guys that sticks out to me the most is like, he talks about how big your sword is. Like that's that guy. I've run by him so many times. And it's just like every time you complete a side quest, you come back and they go, "Oh, is that the Merc?" And then they keep evolving that dialogue after every side quest. And you're like, wow. You know, the thing they told me to do in the beginning when I, talked to Wedge and Biggs up at the top there about the watch is actually working.
Yeah.
They're actually talking about me now. I was like, well, it's like a little detail, but it's really freaking cool that was so fleshed out.
So
I love the fact that beginner's hall was there as well, and that's where the base of operations was for the sector. That's so great. I miss the fact that there's no kids using limit breaks on each other, but other than that.
So I know we were talking earlier about how it felt like it wasn't quite as somber when the Sector 7 plate dropped. And as far as the cutscene is concerned, I agree. But I feel like something that this game had that the original didn't is because you spend so much time in Sector 7 and you spend so much time like doing side quests and getting to know everybody there, I feel like that makes it a little more impactful when the plate does fall. Because it's like, you know all those people. Like, that's the area that you were traversing for most of the game. And now, like, there's burning rubble falling from it, and you're trying to save as many people as you can, because you genuinely actually care about all of these people in Sector 7, because you had a lot of chances, to, like, really get to know all the characters in there.
Yeah, that one hit home. In exchange for the somber silence, you had actual relationships built. And I think that's what did good. We didn't talk about that earlier, but that definitely attributed to the sadness of it. It's just sad in a different way.
Yeah. It's definitely like more of like an aftermath type feel, and it definitely feels like this. I've heard this described as like that game's like 9/11. It's like after that comes down, it's like Barrett's reaction to everything that got me. In the original, that kind of gets you a little bit. But like his full-on breakdown, like in this, where he's just like punching the gosh darn rock and just like screaming about his dead friends, it's like, oh god,
you really feel it. Like,
especially when like he still thinks Marlene's gone too. It's like, oh god, imagine that, going through that.
Also, the voice actors did a really good job in this game.
They did, yeah.
So
I was super happy with most of the voices in this.
So I think it's time we get into the thing that we all really wanted to talk about, as far as the changes that were made in the remake and where the ending is leading and all of these things that make it not a 1-to-1 remake. I don't know if you want to start with the whispers or if you want to start with the actual ending or.
I think we should start from the end of the road.
Okay.
Literally post-fight. Like, after you're done, you're off the bike, and you're standing there with Aerith, and she hits you with this is the point of no return.
Yep.
Because at that point, that's when the game really diverges fully.
Yep.
I mean, completely full.
Yeah, like, it was making you could see that it was making some slight divergences before, but it was like, okay, this is still Final Fantasy VII. Once you get to that road, though, like, after you beat the Roadmaster, it just goes crazy. Because I remember I was doing the Roadmaster fight, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, but, it's going to end after this, and I was like, oh, it's kind of quirky that they ended on that note, so that's kind of cool and everything. Game over. Great, had a good experience with Final Fantasy VII Remake, waiting for the next one. And then when it all just opens up, and Sephiroth is there, and it's just... Yeah.
You cross over into the singularity and you're like, what the hell is this? Why am I now in Advent Children? What is going on?
So much is going on in that situation, dude. Oh my god.
I mean...
Go ahead.
Okay.
I was kind of scared that it was like, oh, have we crossed over into Kingdom Hearts? Is this what's happening? What's going on? Like before
I wrote, oh, NOMURA.
Yep.
I feel it. I know it.
Yep.
Yeah, that definitely like strikes at the fear. It's like, oh god, this is totally different. What?
It's
Where's it gonna go?
completely different. How do we feel about the Whispers in general, though? About like they're sort of the ones keeping fate in line, and they're the ones that are making sure that everything goes the way it should, and that it should go the way Final Fantasy VII needs to go.
So they're basically the fans, right? They're the fans of the one-to-one.
Yeah, 100%.
I hadn't thought about that, but yes,
100% what they are, dude. Because like the entire time you're dealing with these enigmatic specters, they're like their whole purpose in the game. And I mean, I really didn't get it until Shinra HQ, where Aerith and Red 13, she touches him, and all of a sudden he's like, oh shit, they're the arbiters of fate. Oh, like, oh, okay. So all of a sudden you know that now. Cool. But they're trying to keep the events of the original game in line, and it really hit home for me when Barrett died.
Oh yeah.
But they stopped him from dying. I was like, that didn't happen in the original.
There are a couple other moments where it happens too. They're not as significant, but they are moments where it sort of shows you that these Whispers are maybe, they're not necessarily good, they're not bad, they're just keeping things in order. So, one of the big ones was for the second bombing mission on Sector 5. Initially, Cloud goes with them. I think Barrett offers to pay him a little more money, come with us to Sector 5, and Cloud's like, yeah, sure. In the remake, Barrett's like, nah, fuck this spiky-headed fool. We don't need him. This is Avalanche business. And that prompts the Whispers to jump in and actually hurt Jessie and attack her and Barrett and make her hurt her ankle. So that then Tifa's like, well, we got to bring Cloud. So Cloud has to go along with that now.
Did you notice that they made him oversleep in that section too, so he wouldn't go and actually help beforehand? Like,
oh yeah.
I thought it was, at the time when I was watching the cutscene, I thought it was like, and I'm still not sure if it's Sephiroth's voice or not, because I originally thought that was Sephiroth's voice. It was just like sleep and dream the sweetest dreams. It's like literally just a whisper hovering over Cloud's like sleeping body, and at that point you're just like, what the heck is going on here?
Yeah.
But like you look back at it and you figure out, oh, they're just trying to mess with Cloud so that he can't stop them from
hurting Jessie and making things go the way they wanted to. They also did something with Tifa, because Tifa also didn't really agree with the bombing thing at all. And then, I guess because they attacked Barrett and Jessie, suddenly she's like, well, we gotta do something. And also,
I think she's the only one that could fill in after, like, Wedge.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
So she kind of had to go.
Yeah. And then, of course,
because they were going to cancel the whole thing, weren't they?
That's right, they were. Yep.
It was already out there.
So. And then they collect on Wedge as well in the Shinra HQ.
I think that moment then definitely like gave an indication of where it was going for me. Like these are putting things into place. But I think the moment where it clicked was it was a very, very small moment. But it's when after you meet Aerith in the church, and they start like flying around and they drag you away from like basically Cloud slaughtering Reno. It's like thrusting them into the back room. It's like, oh yeah, they're definitely trying to make things like the original. Like, yeah,
that's true.
I think at the moment it like clicked for real.
I kind of forgot that they actually pushed Cloud and Aerith into the previous room. Also, I think they stop her from falling at some point.
They do. Like when she's at the top, they stop her from falling off and push her back onto the balcony.
It's like, wild. It's wild to think, because I also feel like because of all of that and her connection to everything, she knows a hell of a lot more than she let on the entire time.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, definitely.
I don't know if that's just because she is so in tune with the planet, and the Whispers are also kind of in tune with the planet and fate and everything, that's why she knows so much.
I don't know if we want to start theorizing yet, so because I know that Slap's got it on a list.
Oh, that's true. He does.
100%. Yeah, we can come back to that if you want to.
Yeah,
we
can
come back to that.
There's some interesting thoughts there, like some mind-blowing stuff potentially as well. So yeah, let's come to that.
So at the end, you go into sort of the Whispers dimension or their realm. And you essentially change fate. You change fate. And you have this incredible battle with Sephiroth, which of course it's a Final Fantasy game. It wouldn't be a Final Fantasy game without one of their big money makers front and center. How do we feel about this? About the fact that now it's sort of a an open. It's who knows where it's going, right? It's like the Star Trek reboot, where it's like, yeah, it's still Star Trek, but everything you thought you knew about Star Trek ain't gonna happen anymore, and it might not play out like that. Anything that we thought
that's really apt. It's a really apt comparison there, exactly like the Star Trek.
As soon as it happened on stream, I was like, it's exactly like J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, where someone comes back and they screw with the timeline, and now it's like everything that we were is gone, and now it's a new book, it's a new story. Whatever we were no longer is. Yeah,
some people I know are probably obviously super mad about this. I'm excited. I'm super excited. Even if it's a trash fire, I'm kind of excited to see it happen, because I still think that they'll do most of the stuff that we want to see from the original Final Fantasy VII, but this just gives them more opportunities to do different things with the characters and not be held back by that blueprint that is Final Fantasy VII to make some of those changes. So yeah, I'm definitely excited about that. Because no matter what happens, I don't think it's going to change the main story beats.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that the remake is just going to be all about finding a different way.
Yeah,
we'll see. I feel pretty confident in saying that I think we'll see all of the core areas, the main areas from the original, visiting the temple, finding Rufus and Juno, the emergence of the weapons. I still think all of that is going to happen, but due to us changing fate at that point, we'll probably get a different look. Because I remember playing the original and thinking there had to have been a different way to do this. And we might actually see those in later chapters of the remake, that personally gets me so amped for later renditions of the game.
I agree. I think it's essentially still gonna be Final Fantasy VII, and all the hallmark things. And I'm going back to the Star Trek thing again, but I feel like they're gonna make it just a little bit different. In the Star Trek movies, you still get that really iconic Wrath of Khan moment where, someone goes in and has to deal with the radiation. This time it's Kirk that goes in and deals with the radiation. And it's Spock that's shouting, Khan! And in this one, it might still happen, where it's they've set it up in the sense that maybe Aerith is salvageable, and she's not going to die because she has presented herself as being stupid important. But that might mean she's off the chop, but maybe now Tifa's on the chopping block. Maybe somebody else that's really important is going to die, or who knows. So I think it's still going to be this the same general path of Final Fantasy VII, just a little bit different.
I admit, watching a breakdown of one of the cutscenes from the original, the whole Aerith death scene.
Yep.
Someone did the math. From the moment Sephiroth emerges from the air to the moment he plunges his sword through her chest is 7 seconds.
I have heard this as well.
I sat there are you kidding me?
I heard that too. But like there's also like a second reference to 7 seconds in the game. It's like 7 seconds till the end also is like referred to in one of the loading screens in the game, and it's actually referring to Meteor falling on
at the very end. Yeah.
The city. Yeah. So, and that's another thing too. In the final cutscene, there is about 7 seconds when the live stream like hits Meteor, and like you get those flashes of everybody's faces before going back to like Aerith's from the quote unquote beginning of the game. Yeah, so that there's about 7 seconds there too, so it could be referring to that. But yeah, so I'm unsure.
So when it comes to the 7 seconds, and it being a reference to, say, how long it takes for Sephiroth to drop down and slay Aerith, I don't doubt that that's how long it takes, but I think the big thing that makes me want to shy away from that is the fact that at that point, the Whispers are dead. The main Whisper is gone. So that timeline where Sephiroth Aerith
already,
it's gone. It's already inextricably changed, and it's potentially not going to happen. So he might remember the timeline where that happens, but that timeline is in fact now gone. For Cloud, for this Cloud, that it hasn't happened yet. And
it's interesting. You said this Cloud.
Well, I mean, you know, this timeline's Cloud. Yeah, you know. So I'm not sure exactly what. I suppose there are so many different things that the 7 seconds could refer to. Maybe it's just a honky little thing because hey, it's Final Fantasy VII, so burp.
I remember thinking about all of that too, and thinking to myself, like, oh yeah, it could be literally anything. But then the more I thought about it, I think it refers to the meteor. At the end of the day, it's just really fun to theory craft other ideas there.
Yeah, but 7 pops up a lot in Final Fantasy VII for obvious reasons. You know, like with 7-7-7-7 and other like dialogue in the original. So I'm not surprised that they would choose that. But the importance of that line, I don't think that's going to be paid off till probably a while down the line. Yeah.
Oh god,
yeah.
I mean, I think the next game in the remake series is gonna allude to it and maybe hint at it a little bit, but the full payoff is probably gonna be on like the last game of the remake or the very end of the second to last game in the remake or something like that.
It's interesting too, because the next step in the OG was a recollection of Cloud's memories.
Yep, it's calm.
So we'll be if they still go down that route. Is seeing Zack and the little flash there? If that is in fact an alternate timeline and he does make it back, will he be in those memories type of thing? Like that's the stuff that gets me excited for the direction that they're gonna take, because I have no idea.
So go ahead.
I'm super excited for the idea that the next one might just open straight into the flashback scene at Calm. Like, not even like Cloud telling the story, just like you open on Cloud and Sephiroth in the back of that van. Just
that would be so cool.
That would be one hell of an introduction.
Give me the Crisis Core scene.
Oh,
let me really see it.
Don't hit me with Crisis Core music. Oh, the Price of Freedom! Like if they had played the Price of Freedom during that Zack cutscene, I would have wept on stream. That song hits me hard, dude.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did Zack actually survive?
That is a great question. Because I mean, they allude to the fact that he survives with the way that they pictured it out. It feels like they want you to believe that he's alive. But when he actually dies in 7 and I think in Crisis Core, they're at this overlook looking onto Midgar, and it's raining and they get jumped, and that's where Zack finally perishes. And right at the end of that cutscene, you can see Zack's boots. It starts a-raining. And
so
I don't.
Did you play Crisis Core, Mia, by any chance?
I missed out on Crisis Core because I never had a
okay.
PSP,
So the full reimagining of Crisis Core can be boiled down to that final truck ride on their way back to the cliffs of Midgar, looking over Midgar, right? Mm-hmm. In the OG Final Fantasy, you find out how he died, and then in Crisis Core, you play it out. And him dying on that cliff, right? The whole Cloud being infused with Mako and borderline a vegetable, and then Zack talking to him the entire time. That's the turning point where Cloud like adopts Zack's persona, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And begins to believe that he was a soldier because he, like, to his core believes that he's Zack. But on that cliff, Zack dies, and they, like, the rest of the Shinra soldiers leave Cloud there because they deem him not a threat, not knowing that he was going to recover.
Imagine if they deemed him a threat and shot him.
Right there, right? There goes Final Fantasy. Over.
Yeah. Shinra wins.
That's one of the timelines.
Yeah.
That's it. It's over. But he overlooks Midgar, and it has the scene where he's overlooking Midgar has all of the shit that's flying in the air, right? Like the overgrown Midgar. It's just like it's really pretty, and it's not the same Midgar that you see when, you know, Avalanche and Core leave Midgar. What he's looking at and what they leave from is not the same. So I'm very, very interested in how they're going to mix those two things together, because if the Arbiters of Fate were indeed like supposed to keep the timeline in line, then it's led to assume that the sword-wielding Spectre, the gun-toting Spectre, and the fist Spectre were, you know, future versions of Cloud Tifa Barrett, stopping them, because in their timeline and the OG, everything ends up okay. Why would they want to change it?
You see, that's interesting, because I was doing a little bit of research, and I was told this in my stream after I came to that conclusion that the Whispers they were fighting were Cloud, Tifa, and Barrett. It turns out they're actually Kadaj, Laz, and Yazoo from Advent Children.
Ooh, I forgot about those three. Those were all Sephiroth clones, right?
Yeah, they were the remnants of Sephiroth.
Right.
So apparently it was kind of like confirmed in like a Final Fantasy VII art book or something, which is coming out. Oh. But it's like one of their attacks is literally the name of like one of the weapons, the remnants weapons, and they fuse together to create Bahamut too. Like they summon Bahamut Sin in Advent Children. So like that whole ending bit is literally, there's so much Advent Children in there. It's kind of crazy, and that actually leads to a different theory as well. Another key theory. Did you notice that all the flashbacks that you were seeing was literally Advent Children footage?
Yeah. yeah.
That part at least, I figured that much.
This is what's going to happen if we fail here today.
All right, Red. I need to go back and watch Advent Children, because it's been so long since I've seen that I didn't even remember that they summoned Bahamut Sin.
So I bought it, and I'm going to watch it soon. Yeah, because I am thinking the same thing you were. I want to go back and catch that.
Because honestly, I thought those were just the Whispers that were like sort of like in charge of these three big fates. Like, these three fates are so ridiculously important to the timeline that they needed, like, three specific, like, Whisper generals to just make sure that they didn't get their shit done. I didn't even connect it to Advent Children.
Yeah, the only reason I attributed them to being separate was because Sephiroth doesn't have any control.
Yeah, well, that's like I thought the same thing as well. But like you think about Advent Children, like their bodies like reintegrate into the life stream.
Oh, totally possible. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's definitely possible. Like that the life stream would use their like forms or powers as some kind of defense mechanism. Did you all like the way that the Whispers are actually implemented? I mean, it makes sense that they would have like a spiritual version of what is essentially a weapon, like a massive creature that would defend the planet, but this is like in perpetuity through time.
I like the whole concept of the whispers and them being like, oh hey, we're gonna keep the timeline going. I actually kind of thought that was a really cool idea, and I like the idea that the last boss is literally fate. You are fighting fate. So I kind of liked it, even if it was kind of a Nomura Kingdom Heartsy thing, where he literally looks like what is it, Darkheart from Kingdom Hearts, the big I still like the idea of it, and I liked going through it all and getting all the flashbacks. So I was fine with that little last ending bit in the whispers.
I think like the whispers kind of annoyed me playing through the game, but like retrospectively looking back, considering the ending, like it like the implementation makes a lot more sense to me and kind of like works. I just didn't enjoy times where they were like gating content, like a materia like behind I think it's like another chakra materia that you couldn't get in the church, and it's like, can you not just let me pick this up?
Yep.
That's so frustrating.
Oh my god, I thought the same thing. I was like, why you gotta put the materia in the cutscenes?
Yeah.
Like, it's cool that it's there, don't get me wrong, but why's it gotta physically be there?
Did we all literally do that, by the way? Didn't see it till the cutscene? Same.
Yeah.
Same.
You couldn't go in that room. It was like when you go through that back room with all the pews and like the floors collapsed and all that stuff, you physically aren't allowed to turn down that walkway, because I did it again in hard mode. I was like, can I go in there now? Like, do it early? No, the whispers are physically swirling around that room, and they only funnel you to where you're supposed to go. You are not supposed to go back there until later in the game.
That chakra material is incredibly important to the timeline. You do not realize if they'd gone that early, you don't know what could happen.
Who knows what sort of chaos would unravel.
Those are free heals, man. I need them.
So, what do you guys think of Sephiroth's role? Because obviously, in the OG Final Fantasy VII, and I think I talked with you about this a little bit on stream at one point, I don't think you actually quote-unquote see Sephiroth until the calm flashbacks. I think that's when you first see him. Like, you hear about him, you know that he murders President Shinra, but you don't see him until the calm flashbacks. In this one, you see him early and you see him often.
Yeah, you do.
And
but I feel like there's a reason for that, though, but I'll wait till the theory section.
Well, I
it's
mean...
weird. Seeing all of the numbered clones, like, physically just, like, around... was like a little jarring at first, because like you knew they were there.
Oh sure. But
they made it more of a thing, because every time there was a major turning point or what have you, Cloud decided to have a fucking a breakdown at one point or another. Like, a complete side note, I love the fact that when he pulled his sword on his neighbor, it got stuck in the door. I thought that was actually cool.
Yeah.
But the fact
or
that
Marco.
He had no idea. But the fact that all of them are just there, dude, is so freaking cool. I mean, I kind of didn't like that he was so ever present, but it should make sense that he was, because Cloud's messed up. Like, he's really messed up.
And I really like that they played up how messed up he was. Because in the original, like, it's like, oh yeah, he's kind of freaking out because he's about to bomb Shinra, whatever. Okay, I kind of get that. He's got a little PTSD going on, sure. But, like, I feel like Cloud doesn't really start to lose his shit in the original 7 until... I mean, what, does it maybe start at Nibelheim where he starts to lose his shit? When he starts to put everything together?
I mean, you get those flashes originally of him losing it a little bit and like having like mild PTSD panic attacks in the same areas, but you just get voices in his head, you know, like text, which it's assumed to be Zack. But that's also questions like if Zack has like survived in this version, even though it's an alternate universe, multiverse Zack with a different stamp on the.
There's the different stamp
on there. It's like, what is that? But yeah, in terms of like really losing his mind, I think. I don't know. I can't remember in the original.
It's deep.
He goes crazy at Temple of the Eighth.
It's all leading up to when he ends up in a wheelchair. Like,
you
don't really get Cloud full-on breaking until roughly that point.
Yeah, when he gives the black materia to Sephiroth, and that whole Temple of the Ancients thing. In this one, it's like he's
beating up Aerith.
Oh god,
Like,
I didn't realize that until I replayed it. I forgot that happened somehow. Maybe because I was like, wow, that's fucked up. Let's go ahead and forget that one.
Blocked it from existence.
Yeah, but then I played it again. I was like, oh my god, he's wailing on Aerith. And I was kind of shook. I was like, Jesus Christ, I don't remember that, and that's horrific. Which presents... Oh, I don't know how they're going to portray that one in the remake, if they do. But
he'll probably just slap her across the face or something, and then
Yeah, or
people
something
step
like
in
that.
before he does anything else.
crazy. Yeah.
You'll fall
one
to
of
the
those
ground.
moments, like, we're fans of the series, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we know a lot going forward. So at this point, if you're a newcomer to Final Fantasy, you have no idea that Cloud has Genova cells.
This
You don't
is
know
true.
his connection to Sephiroth, right?
Yeah.
You don't even know why when he's in Hojo's lab, he goes, Mother, looking at Genova. Like, you don't know that. But, like, we know that. So when he starts babbling about the reunion of his own accord post-break, you're like, oh,
yeah,
okay.
that was the other time the Whispers played a part. Hojo was about to tell Cloud why he wasn't a soldier, and then they were just like, no, you don't! And they just whisked him away, and he was like, whoa, this is
Please
interesting!
don't break his mind early. Please don't.
We need him sane for a little while longer, so we can give the black materia to Sephiroth, then he can go insane.
He's like, my boy, you were never in soldier. What?
Off you go! Exit stage right, biatch! But yeah, in the remake, it is very clear that he is not all there, like, from the get-go.
Yeah.
He is very clearly losing it, and it's very clearly more than just a slight case. I shouldn't say a slight case of PTSD. I don't know if such a thing exists, but it's clearly more than just he's traumatized from his time in Soldier.
I can clearly see this Cloud being a direct, like, through line of the flashback Cloud that Tifa talks about in the original Final Fantasy VII, where, like, she finds him at the train station and he's literally just flipping out before he gets his shit together. And it's like, that feels a lot more like this game.
Yep.
Where he's so confused and, like, he's seeing Sephiroth everywhere, and the other characters are just looking at him, going, "Are you okay? Is everything good with you?"
Cloud, you could, maybe you know.
In
Do you need
second
a
thought,
Snickers?
until the end, they're like, oh shit, he's actually there. At that moment, I just want a Cloud to be like, I told you. Like, just right there.
See, I'm not crazy. Everyone's like, no, Cloud, you're crazy. It's just not this time.
I will say the whole Sephiroth thing, it's kind of sad because, like, I did hear that the developers talked about, well, the only reason, this is what they say, and say the reason that we show Sephiroth in this game is because everybody already knows who Sephiroth is, you know? Like, there's no reason to keep him
He's one of the
hidden
poster
because,
boys, really. I mean,
yeah.
if you know about Cloud, you know about Sephiroth.
I feel like it does kind of, like, again, take away from the impact of hearing about this great soldier who was like the best of the best and just went missing one day, and then eventually the president shows up freaking slaughtered on his desk. Like, that was the only other thing I really wanted to, and I can tell why they didn't do it in this one, because there's a lot of, like, gory stuff from the original which just gets taken out of this. Like, there's no blood trails in this one, there's no slain guards or anything like that, there's no capture. I was so sad. I think that was the thing that upset me about Shinra HQ. There was no capture sequence. Rue didn't get in an elevator with them and then take them to the president. So it like the blood on the floor was Genova goop. Okay, I guess
the Genova goop. Yeah. I genuinely remember when I first played Final Fantasy VII as a kid, and you get to that capture sequence in Shinra, and you know you're sitting in the cells, you're having this conversation with your party, and then you go to sleep, and the doors are open, and the guards are dead,
starts to play.
and the music. I was genuinely freaked out by it, and it was one of the most memorable parts because it almost turned Final Fantasy into like this kind of pseudo horror game, and I was like, man, in the remake, shit's gonna hit the fan, it's just gonna be crazy, and then when it didn't happen, I was just like, oh man, that is kind of a bummer that the capture sequence is gone. It's not as horrific, it's not as gory, but yeah, and the mystique of Sephiroth being gone does kind of hurt, because it's almost like up until that point he's a myth, he's a legend, right? And it's like suddenly he's back, but you still don't see him. And even when you see him in the calm flashback, this is still prime Sephiroth. This is still the legendary soldier Sephiroth. He hasn't lost his mind. He hasn't gone... He's not a Genova clone, sort of, kind of, ish, whatever. He's still just like this legendary soldier. And then at the end of that whole flashback thing, it's like, oh, okay, he done goofed. And you don't see him again until Temple of the Ancients. So,
well, you don't see him again until the Northern Crater, but
well,
I mean,
yeah. Technically speaking, this is very true. You don't really see him until then, sure. But
I mean, you see him in Nibelheim, right? Where he T-poses in the basement.
Oh, that's true. He does that. No, you're right. You're right.
Yeah, throws a materia at you and then T-poses to show dominance and flies away.
Yeah. But they really hold back on just blitzing you with Sephiroth, whereas in the remake, it's every chance to get, hey, look, Sephiroth memory. Hey, look, it's Sephiroth again. Hey, look, it's another Sephiroth. Hey, look, you're fighting Sephiroth now. And it's like, aw. They even use the One-Winged Angel
that
track.
Really cater to the new player, though.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because the new player... Like trying to remove myself from the situation entirely. Like, if I were a new player seeing all of that, I'd be like, oh, Cloud's hallucinating. Right? He's just hallucinating nonstop. And, like, you learn his name really early on and stuff like that, but he's just, like, the ever-present baddie in Cloud's mind. And it doesn't become apparent that he's, holy shit, actually the baddie until Aerith's like, he's wrong.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, okay, so Cloud's not totally losing his mind, and this character is actually there, and he's actually bad, right? So, like, as a new player to the series, the game does no hand-holding whatsoever to kind of, like, ease you into what the hell is going on. Yeah. But, I mean, it's all nice nuggets for the people who have played the game at all.
Yeah, it's rough for a new player to jump into the remake. That is a rough one now that I think about it.
It's real bad because it just opens more questions for me because the whole and now knowing that Cloud is aware and we're aware of how busted he is. How are they going to actually show us the Nibble reactor?
Yeah,
because that involves very much Crisis Core, like entirely involved Crisis Core.
Here's the thing, though: they haven't really spoiled anything with the Zack stuff because, like, they've shown that Zack is a character that exists, but we have no idea who he is. A new player has no idea who Zack is. Like, I don't think his name is ever mentioned.
I don't think so either. No, I think about it.
In the credits, it's in the credits. Damn it.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
It is. His voice is listed in the credits.
If you read the credits. The only time in the game where his name is mentioned, which doesn't happen in the original, but does happen in the remake, is when Aerith says it in just outside of Wall Market, in the just outside of the Sector 7 gates, in the playground. And that's such a great scene because Cloud just has that mental break where even if he hears the name, he can't hear the name. He just blocks it out. Like, his brain will not allow him to hear the name Zack. Yep. And it's great. It's amazing.
So I think this is a pretty good point to jump off into some theory crafting. If I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I'm gonna let Slap start because I've done a lot of research. I've watched a lot of videos about stuff, so
all right.
I want to see where Slap goes first.
Open the floor to Slap. Yep.
All right. So throughout the entire process of just playing the game, trying to soak in as much information as possible, I did watch a lot of videos. I've rewatched my own VOD and checked all of the cutscenes again, which I recommend everybody do. If you played the game before and you've already beaten it even recently, just watch all of the cutscenes as a movie. Yeah. And really, really soak that in, because knowing what you know by the end of the game, the cutscenes hit different.
Yeah.
You also need to watch the alternate cutscenes as well to get more information that you might have missed.
100%. But the core theory that I'm running off of here, by the end of this game, has nothing to do with the 7 seconds, has nothing to do with everything before that final point where you're actually fighting the Arbiters of Fate. But very much so that Sephiroth and Aerith are a black and white completely aware of all timelines and events, giving their connection to the arbiters themselves and the life energy and the Mako and all that stuff, because interacting with Aerith throughout the entire game, she plays on like she knows a lot more than she should. Like from the moment you meet her and Reno of the Turk shows up, before Cloud even says anything, she goes, "You're a merc, right?" I'm like, how do you know that?
Well, she says that he's a soldier as well, and
yeah, she just knows this information. I'm just like, okay, what have you? And then again, when she interrupts Tifa to go get Marlene, she had never heard Marlene's name until that point.
Yep, I was about to bring that up.
And she's talking to Marlene, and I think she says Barrett too to Marlene, which I don't think she hasn't even met Barrett at that point.
Yeah, at that point she hadn't. Yeah.
Barrett.
And I think one of the things that really got me was that when she said that every time she interacts with the Whispers, she loses a part of herself. And I think that part of herself that she's losing is the memories that she has from those alternate timelines. Because she doesn't know what she's losing, but she knows that what she's losing is important. And by the very end, before they cross that threshold of the portal that she made within Sephiroth's portal, it's very, I don't know why we need to go in here, but it's important that we do. And it's just like, how do you know all of this? And then Sephiroth being just the ever-present entity that he is, like, you can chalk it up to because he's in Cloud's mind, he's aware of everything that's going on, but he's also very aware of the things that haven't happened yet. And then you see more of that in the flashbacks within there, and they're showing you the scenes of what's going to happen if we fail here today. And I'm just like, okay, so is that going to be a theme all the way through the game? Like, are they just going to constantly show us glimpses of what was, what could be, and then we'll play through what we are actually aiming for? Or are they just going to constantly hit us with these comparisons left and right? Because that felt a little bit jarring, very eye-opening, mind you, but it does nothing to fuel the fucking theory beast that gets created from this.
Here's the thing too, like, the whole idea of like multiverse now opens up so many options that it's really hard to pin down an actual theory. Because considering there's a multiverse, like, there's no way of knowing that the events of Crisis Core, well, the events of Crisis Core happen, but like, I have no idea if Advent Children now occurs at the original ending of Final Fantasy VII or if that's in a different universe. Like, for that kind of thing, anything that follows that up. For instance, like, this ending implies that the original ending of Final Fantasy VII was the bad ending. Like,
it does, doesn't it?
It does. It really does.
Yeah.
It was the best case scenario given the cards that they had.
Holy / the live stream decided that humanity just needed to go and like erased it if Advent Children didn't happen after that. But like, if you're going back to the original ending of Final Fantasy VII, the whole ambiguous, did they survive? Because there's always that talk with Bugenhagen, who I can't wait to see.
Oh my god! Yeah, justice, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah,
floating on that big material.
Everything.
Show me the world, old man.
Yeah.
So, like, they talk to him in Final Fantasy VII leading up to the end, and they're like, okay, well, this magic has been cast, Holy's been cast, but we have no idea if the planet will decide if we are allowed to live now after this. So the implication is that in that particular ending, with Midgard destroyed and like Nanaki, Red 13, and his like children having dominance over the land 500 years later, that humanity was just wiped out, and that is the bad ending. Which also means that in that canon, Advent Children doesn't follow that up, but that also specifically combats a theory that I also have in mind to talk about too, which is Sephiroth, and the whole idea that Advent Children kind of needs to happen because the Sephiroth from this game is the Sephiroth from Advent Children.
I've heard that theory, that it's the same Sephiroth from Advent Children because he's able to like make clones of himself, and he can do this sort of like I'll never be a memory, I'll always exist, and he's kind of
the motherfucker's a tulpa, dude. He's actually a tulpa in this game. Because he doesn't, like, his body being in a northern crater, if we assume that to be straight fact, right?
Yeah.
tulpas don't gain physical form unless you think about them, and my man Cloud does not stop thinking about him.
This is true.
Yeah.
He never stops thinking about Sephiroth.
So did you notice that
weird?
Every Sephiroth moment in this game is like kind of accompanied by something Advent Children-esque.
I did not notice that.
So
actually.
the initial thing. So let's go in with the idea that Sephiroth and Aerith both have knowledge of the future because they're both part of the live stream, and let's think about the live stream as being this, considering it has like time travel powers, which either means that it exists outside of time, like it's like it doesn't experience time in a linear format.
Right.
Like it could just be that time is a constant for the live stream. It doesn't matter when things happen, just that they happen. So Aerith and Cloud's like, I guess spirit energy being inside the live stream, the mimetic legacy that is Sephiroth, can then like travel back in time. When he first appears, he's fucking with Cloud. He's trying to stop Cloud from getting to Aerith. The things that he says to him is, run away. The planet is in danger. Run away from here. You're not supposed to be here, or whatever. Something like that, anyway. And the music that plays directly afterwards, I can't remember what the track is called, but it's from the opening of Advent Children.
Is it really?
Yeah. It's the when they're recapping the events of Final Fantasy VII, with all of the scenes that like kind of play at the end of this game in those flashbacks. That's the music that plays when Marlene is like doing the exposition stuff.
I really need to go back and watch Advent Children now, because I'm realizing how much stuff I've potentially missed because I haven't watched Advent Children in like 8 years.
It's been. I mean, the movie came out in 2006. I don't doubt it.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute.
He also has weird lines in the final fight as well, like, oh, this brings back memories. He has the one wing too, which doesn't really show up until after like Safer. Is it Safer Sephiroth? Like with the wing, which isn't even black then, but like
it's well, to be fair, Safer Sephiroth has like 5 wings. But...
Oh, does it? Yeah. Oh, yeah, and they're all white wings.
Yeah.
But like in Advent Children, he gets the black wing in that final fight, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. And he also says, "Shall I give you despair?" which is a direct line lifted from Advent Children 2, which I guess you could take as being just a reference. But like it starts to make sense. Like everything that Sephiroth does in the game makes more sense if he has knowledge of everything, even up to Advent Children as well. Like he screwed up so many times that now he just wants to go back. I mean, he talks about Cloud killing him being the crowning achievement of their time together too, and like Cloud didn't really truly destroy him until after Advent Children.
Yeah,
like as long as he's like a memory, he can survive or whatever. So he's never really gone.
I mean, to be fair, what's also really crazy about that whole final confrontation is in Advent Children, they're fighting in like a totally collapsing Midgar too. And it's take away the Arbiter of Fate. They're just fighting in a ruin.
Yeah,
it's pretty much the same thing. So I think I'm on board 100% with the idea that at least Sephiroth is hyper aware of everything that has happened in both the original, post, and what's going on currently. I don't know if he knows entirely what's going to happen in this particular timeline, because I don't think Aerith also knows. It's just like she's aware of what could happen. And if they continue to play off that right, and I say right, like in very hyper bolded context here, if they do it right, then we're going to have some interesting chapters to unfold as the game progresses, because it's like they're just going to carry this knowledge of what could happen if they fuck up in individual locations. And it's just like the hyper awareness that they have could put a lot of strain on the party.
Oh, God, yeah. Do you think with that hyper awareness that they're going to stray away from having Aerith die?
I actually low-key hope so. Like, at this point, it doesn't bother me that Like, if she does die, and be like, oh, okay, this happened in the original.
Mm-hmm.
But if she doesn't die, Fate has a very twisted way of coming to claim its due, right? And we saw that with Wedge getting yoinked from the tower.
Thing is, the Whispers don't exist anymore to come claim those.
I don't think they don't exist. I think in that situation, they were conquered. But I think they're tied specifically to the live stream, which is my theory going forward. Because they might have changed Fate at that point in time, but they also mentioned it earlier in the game, specifically, that the Arbiters of Fate do not present themselves to anyone that isn't trying to alter the course of fate.
So
I'm thinking, like, in a weird way, like, think of it this way. They were following a linear timeline, and they were presented with a fork. If they followed the OG timeline, that fork wouldn't have existed, but because they're changing it, they hit the first fork, which branched off into another timeline. It's only a matter of time before they hit the next fork, which will indicate another major turning point / decision, because if they're hyper aware of the current timeline, and if we're under the impression that, you know, it's just a constant, then they might be trying to, like, determine an outcome along this line that still fits their design, as opposed to just trying to change them every step of the way. So that's where I'm going with this. That's where I, like, kind of landed with my theory crafting, and it's, like, even weirdly so further bolstered by our conversation here.
So the interesting thing there is that, like, if the live stream experiences time is like a constant, like, as set, it makes sense why in a different timeline the destruction of the Whispers happened at the exact same moment, like, even though it was in the past, because it was just across all of time. Like, they don't exist anymore, full stop. Like, linear time having no effect on them. Just the fact that they were destroyed means that they were destroyed in that Crisis Core period too.
Potentially, yeah, I guess.
Everywhere.
Well, I think if you assess that the last boss, Whisper, he does say that they preside over not only the future but, like, the past as well, right? So it would make sense that not just in future past, like, it's not just the future that they fucked with, it's the past, which is
so brain breaking, dude.
Which is kind of why I'm thinking that Biggs, Jesse, and Wedge are all actually still alive, because the Whispers went hard at making sure that they died. They went hard at making sure that Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse died, and without the influence of the Whispers, since they have dominance over not only the future but the past, because they were so heavy of an influence on all three of them, they're all still alive. Because if somehow Biggs made it out of that Sector 7 mess and he's in Aerith's home recuperating, it is very conceivable that Jesse's alive, because her...
Oh, he's in like the God, what place that looks after kids? What's it called?
That, okay.
Yeah.
I thought he was in the house. Okay, sure, that's fine too. But if he's alive, it looks like what is it? Wedge's bandana and Jesse's gloves are next to him. It is super conceivable that both of them are alive. I mean, Wedge is potentially still alive. You never actually see him die, to be fair. You see him get pushed out the window, but you never find a body. And hell, if Biggs can escape the plate control, why the hell couldn't Jesse? If the Whispers are no longer holding dominion over the timeline.
See, this is brain breaking, because I just had a thought that if the Arbiter of Fate is in fact dead, like right there, and you kill him in the present to remove from the past, present, and the future, play through the game again and see where the Whispers mess with you, and imagine what it would have been like if they weren't there. And that's those are the potential. Yeah, those are potential changes that could. I mean, if it wasn't for the Whispers, Barrett's dead. Because, like, we never know. Like in Crisis Core with Zack being in his final stand, we're never really alluded to the fact that, or it's never been clear that the Whispers had any hand in that. But if we assume that they did, then it would make sense that Zack's alive now because the Whispers weren't there to intervene.
Exactly. Because, I mean, the Whispers are all floating around. Zack can see them. So Zack is, I guess, Zack's last stand. Are they alluding that Zack is aware of the Whispers and that he is someone that is trying to alter fate himself?
I think so.
Because they only appear to people that are trying to change fate, right? And he sees them. And he notices that they're there, and he notices that they're gone when he doesn't die in that thing.
Him not dying is a direct challenge to fate in all respect.
So, like, now that they're gone, maybe he doesn't die. Even if they're alluding that, oh yeah, he's going to the cliff where he dies, now that the fates aren't there, he could survive that encounter. Even if they do get jumped.
Yeah, definitely. Something interesting about the ending as well, when you talk about the Whispers being defeated. So we all know Sephiroth, right? He's a cool guy.
Who?
He's also a very... Sephiroth. He's a very cool guy. He's a very manipulative guy as well.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, his whole OG thing outside of Advent Children, when he just shows up for a fight, is, like, literally the whole game trying to manipulate Cloud. And he's doing that in this remake too. In ways of, like, trying to make him avoid meeting up with Aerith and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it occurred to me, did Sephiroth win?
Does he get what he wants? I think
he got what he wanted.
He absolutely
the
got
fates
what he
were destroyed. He doesn't want Aerith to die.
Oh, I gotta break my brain. Okay, so look, listen. If
he also seemed to absorb the Whispers after you killed them.
Yeah, if he's completely aware of the timeline as the Whispers are, and he doesn't give a shit about the voice of the planet, man's just doing whatever the hell he wants, the original ending, which would have been set forth by the Whispers, is no longer set.
Exactly.
So there's a chance that he doesn't lose. Like, he gets what he wants. He gets a second chance.
It feels like we played directly into his hands. Because, after the Whispers died and he appeared on screen, I literally said out loud, "You fools, we were holding him back."
Yep.
That's so true. That's so true.
Yep. If the Whispers don't die, then Sephiroth doesn't win. Or he has no chance to win. Now, there's a chance. So you're telling me there's a chance. Yep.
Yeah.
That is very
Pretty
true.
much. So,
now it's an unwritten book at this point, depending on what
unknown.
happens.
The unknown. That one of the YouTubers I watch explicitly harped on that particular word, unknown. What if the FF7R going forward isn't FF7R? It's the unknown stories that are going forward, right?
It could go in any direction now.
I still think this game should have been called Final Fantasy VII Remix rather than Remake.
Because then Nomura would have won.
Yeah.
No, call it Final Fantasy VII Final Mix. There you go.
HD Remix.
HD Remix. Yeah, Final Fantasy VII HD Remix 1.5.
7.77.
Yep.
Final Remix.
365/7 by 2 remakes.
Do you know what blew my mind and was awesome as well? And I kind of like put this together, or I don't know if you noticed. Did you notice that in that final cutscene when they try and recreate the end of Final Fantasy VII, where Cloud goes to have a showdown with Sephiroth?
Yep.
He tries to do his Omni Slash and fails because Sephiroth knows what's going to happen because he's experienced that before.
Yeah.
That's not the thing that blew my mind. The thing that blew my mind is that when he gets the Buster Sword knocked out of his hand if you're using the Buster Sword, that's the opening menu. It sticks into the ground on that rock floor.
True.
That's the edge of creation on the main menu.
I had never thought about that.
It's where you create your game. Let's go.
Yep. Fun fact: the Buster Sword isn't Cloud's, and it's not Zack's. The Buster Sword did not belong to Zack. It belongs to Angeal.
It's Angeal, yeah.
Mr. Angeal Hewley.
Mr. Angeal. Wholesome guy.
Also happens to be very broken.
Oh, yeah.
Very broken.
One of the few people that can come between Sephiroth and Genesis.
This is what I want them. I don't want a Crisis Core remake. I don't want that at all. But I want them to, since they're already doing it, incorporate the OG Crisis Core bits of Dirge and Advent Children in
Oh
this
god,
game.
this means that Dirge of Cerberus is canon. Oh no.
Well,
It means that
I
Dirge
mean,
of Cerberus is canon.
to be
Tell me more
fair,
about Vincent Valentine, bro. I want to know about them.
I mean,
all
as
that.
as far as Dirge of Cerberus is concerned, isn't the lab underneath Sector 7 literally called the Deep Ground?
Is it?
I think
Like,
in an
I
art
have no
book, it
idea.
is literally called the Deep Ground. And
Oh, yo, that's cool.
so I
Not the
believe
human
that
fight,
makes
by the way.
I believe that
Favorite
makes
part in the
Dirge
game.
of Cerberus canon. And so, I mean, if you're gonna do Deep Ground, you kind of have to go into Dirge of Cerberus territory, right?
I feel like you have to, but again, we won't know until we actually see it. But
Yeah. So
the
these might
implications
just
of all of the
referenced.
Genova cell usages, because it wasn't like the Project G for like Angeal and all of the Genesis and everything involving that sector of the world into Project S, which resulted in Sephiroth. They got to talk about that. They
Yeah.
have to, because
Yeah.
if you're a new player,
No
none
idea.
of this makes sense.
Yep.
Well, I that doesn't make sense to me because I haven't played Crisis Core. But didn't they allude to that as well when they started talking about cellular deterioration or something like that? The president said it to Cloud just before the
Kind
Aerith
of.
divided.
The new
Yeah.
generation of soldiers are all created using the Project S method, where
Right.
Sephiroth is the progenitor. He's the first. And the only reason he was as successful as he was is because Hojo put Genova cells in his baby
Wow. Oh, okay.
Yep.
with Lucretia.
Wait,
So-
how many soldiers were that? Sorry, I know nothing about Crisis Core.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, so what, there was Angeal, Genesis, Sephiroth, and Zack?
As like some of the first runs that were actually notable, yeah.
Yeah. Didn't they get some cells from Genesis too for something? Like G cells?
Yeah, the Project G. So they originally believed that Genova was a Cetra.
Which she
This
wasn't.
alien entity was one of the originals, right? But
Mhm.
they were obviously sorely mistaken.
Yeah.
And they used her cells in a variant to create Project G with Genesis, Angeal, and the first run of Soldiers with Zack. But Hojo did more experimentation. This is where Dirge of Cerberus kicks in, because at the same time they were transitioning from G to S, Vincent Valentine was involved in the research progress because he was also tested on with
Yep.
Primordial Chaos. And that pushes further into, well, Lucretia's pregnant with my baby. Let me put Genova cells in her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Sephiroth comes in. And then Hojo realized this process was successful, which began the next run of Soldiers, where Cloud was actually injected with Genova cells and infused with Mako. But because Zack had already been infused with Mako, he wasn't affected that way.
It didn't it failed on him, didn't it? According
Correct.
To,
So he was able to carry
record.
Cloud all the way to Midgard because he wasn't comatose from the Mako energy like Cloud was. Because Cloud was a failure. He didn't make it.
One of the funniest goddamn things I've seen is there was a Twitter account that made a bunch of art pieces on. Do you guys realize that like Zack carries a comatose Cloud over like this 50 hours of game that we've seen? He's just comatose, and it's just these little art pieces of like, say, Zack stops in at like a little restaurant, and Cloud just sitting there going, "Gah." And Zack's like, say, "Come." And he's like, yeah, one time when I was in Soldier, I did this, this, and this. And he's like carrying him. There's a picture of like the Zolom cut in half behind him. It's the greatest goddamn thing I've ever seen. And fucking Cloud is just comatose, like drooling from the lips and just not
just Weekend at
responsive.
Bernie's.
Yeah, exactly.
Cloud,
Yeah,
or-
Weekend at Bernie's Cloud. Exactly.
It's crazy because like that whole concept is wild. Because I mean, shit. The only reason that Cloud is so, I don't know. Do you know about this? That Cloud thinks he actually killed Sephiroth by throwing him into the Mako.
Oh yeah, he thinks he killed him.
Mhm.
So like Zack was there.
Well,
and
in the original game, he says he should have been dead, right? He doesn't know why he survived,
Mhm.
but it said that Sephiroth just disappeared after that, or Sephiroth died Shinra said that Sephiroth died.
Yeah.
But then they couldn't trust the newspapers. The newspaper said Sephiroth died, but the newspapers are owned by Shinra, so they couldn't trust them.
Man fell directly to the live stream, got carried all the way to the northern crater.
Yep.
So it's weird how he said it would say "I killed you" in the remake, because he doesn't necessarily know that he killed him. Because in the
all
original,
he did was watch him fall. He
Yeah.
watched him fall, and that was it.
That's weird.
It is very
Is that an
weird.
inconsistency?
Kind of,
Maybe,
because
yeah.
it's a little lapse in. We're missing a dialogue, like literally like 2 lines of dialogue. We're missing, but he says it anyway, so we're just supposed to take it.
Interesting. So this is basically a sequel then, right? This game?
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
This is... I don't even know if you call it a sequel, necessarily. It's like a... You know, like...
I call it a parallel, honestly.
I was gonna say parallel, because in my head I was like, man, you know, in Warframe, when you got a gun that's not necessarily better, not necessarily weaker, it's just different, it's a side grade. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what the fuck
Yeah.
is a side grade in terms of a game? I guess it's a parallel game.
In
Because it's
terms of
still
narrative, yeah.
it's running the same course, but it's just not quite. And it's not quite a sequel. It's not quite a prequel. It's just it's a parallel.
So,
I like that.
It's very much a parallel, because I mean, and that's Nomura's influence though entirely, because when you play through Kingdom Hearts, all of these things are essentially happening at the same goddamn time.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
whoa, okay, is it really a 2? Or is it like a 2.5 or 1.5, and all these things are happening at the same time? That's kind of like what's happening here, where we go against, as what Mia called them, the OG purists, the 1-to-1 that we're fighting them the entire time because we're running parallel to that timeline.
I had a not so much a question, more of a statement slash like theory. I think we can all agree like Aerith either retains memories of the original game or inherited them from her future self, or saw the future in some way. Right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
And then, like, the more interactions she has with the Whispers over time, the more of those memories that she potentially, like, loses of that that future past self, you know? And which is why, like, throughout the game, she's so conflicted about everything. Like, she knows what's going to happen. She knows all these things that are coming up. But, like, by the end of the game, she's like, okay, this is different. Maybe we have a chance to change things here and make it better.
In a weird way, it's almost selfish, because containing those memories, she would know that she dies.
I think her last line in the game as well is like, I miss the still sky, which you could take as her just missing Midgar, but that's more so like she misses the certainty of knowing what will come next, I guess.
Side note, when she was like, I miss the steel sky, I was like, you don't miss it falling on you.
No.
I tell you what, you don't miss that. I'd rather see clear skies than a plate falling on me.
Okay.
I miss the steel sky, but it's getting closer. Oh no.
So you remember I put a video in the chat, right? Can you watch that and tell me what you notice? It's got Aerith at the start of Final Fantasy VII, Aerith at the end of Final Fantasy VII in her appearance after after Meteor hits.
Is this what I think it is? I think it.
Note the differences. There's some key differences in that footage. And if you're not quite getting it, I'll explain it. At the beginning of a game, when you first see Aerith in the original, her eyes are open 100% of the time. After Holy hits, her eyes are closed, and then they open. And in the and I was going to say in the HD remake, and in remake, when we first swoop down on Aerith, her eyes are closed as she's communing with the live stream.
Yeah,
the
it's a weird like continuation of the end.
So it's very possible that that Final Fantasy VII as an OG game didn't even happen. That it was all like a future vision that she was given.
Yeah. And the scene right after this, she spooks herself and looks down the alleyway because you're hearing Sephiroth's music, alluding to the potential fact that she is aware, ever present this entire game, that Sephiroth is in fact there, but she doesn't say a goddamn thing until the end.
That's a hell of a theory.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's not my original theory. Like, I noticed somebody talking about the eye difference in like the comments of a video, and I was like, I need to look into this. And like, my brain blew up. I'm like, oh my god,
that's interesting.
This is like a direct through line from the ending of Final Fantasy VII.
Wait, so the idea is the first game didn't happen, and that was just she got a future vision of. What?
Or maybe it did, but directly at the end of that game, she's taken right back to that point at the start.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Like an elaborate, actually lived-in flashback. She snaps back.
Right. Gotcha. That's super interesting. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah, I watched a video on that too, and I immediately I got goosebumps and a half. It's like, oh shit, what if that's actually the direction they're taking? And that's why Fate's intervening so hard. It's not that they know what happened, but what should happen, and we're just trying to break it.
Yeah,
that's why she's so hyper aware the entire time. Why she knows so much. It's not that she lived it before, technically.
Which is also kind of explains the inconsistencies and like even the stuff that's non-Whisper related in this game. Because if you can take the first game as potentially being some kind of vision or like a half-forgotten dream, there would be parts that are missing. There would be stuff that she doesn't necessarily know about. Like, would she ever know about, like, going on a side mission with Jessie to go meet her parents? You know, that kind of thing. Right, yeah. I mean, we're getting very, very meta now, and obviously that probably wasn't the intention, but it's very interesting to think about.
Well, that is a very meta theory, so you kind of... We're in that realm, so, you know... You go hard or you go home.
Anything that she wasn't physically a part of, she wouldn't remember, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely it's brain breaking though.
That is definitely a brain breaking theory. I like that. I like that a lot.
I feel like that definitely has more meat to it of the theories that are floating around. Though, to be fair, because I mean it's taking away what we do know. She is in tune with the live stream. She is aware of the whispers. She does have a connection to all of that stuff. So if we use that as fact, which at this point we know is, exactly how much she knows is what's up for interpretation.
Yeah.
It does kind of break your brain to think about it, especially like with so much timeline stuff. I'm really excited about what they could do. Obviously, like, as we've all said, we're like a little bit hesitant as well because it's Square Enix, it's modern Square Enix. But as far as I'm concerned, they did a really good job on this game. So I'm hesitant, but I'm also excited to see those changes.
I am certainly hesitant, but the overall experience of the Final Fantasy Remake, to me, even though we've been a little critical on it, on some of the technical aspects, it was a really enjoyable experience. I found it really memorable, and I am really excited that I don't know where it's going, and that it could take any number of different routes. Maybe it will be the Final Fantasy VII I remember. Maybe it'll be a completely different beast that, you know, you'll have a new chance to fall in love with, and it won't just be like, oh yeah, here's a one-to-one thing of that thing I've already played a zillion times. I'm really excited about that prospect, so I want to see where this goes.
Looking forward, what are your hopes for the sequels? Like, what are your hopes? Like, from like a narrative point, from a gameplay point, what are your hopes? Like, keeping it simple. I mean, first of all, like mechanically, you gotta have loadouts. You gotta have different options on materia.
Yeah.
You may be a paradigm system.
If they could refine the combat a little bit, make it feel a little smoother and a little less clunky in terms of the binding and the switching and the aerial combat. We didn't even talk about how shitty the aerial combat is, but it's bad. If they could fine-tune that, it would help this game out so much. Maybe be a little more generous with the blue materia.
Yeah. I think the inconsistencies in abilities of characters would be nice too. Like, Cloud obviously skipped Arm Day consistently, considering he can jump like a mofo, but he can't pull himself up off the side.
Yeah.
of a precipice. Like,
Video game logic, right? He can jump 12 feet into the air to get to that cerulean drake, but...
Well, it's not just that. Like, even in a cutscene, like, he does that crazy jump.
Yeah,
like,
even in the cutscene,
he can't lift himself up. Yeah, his soldier power goes away when he's hanging off the side or something. That's it.
They built that ramp out of kryptonite.
Yeah, he's Master Chief from the waist down. Like I said, dude, he can jump. He can jump. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, no, I'm on board with that. I think the same thing as DK there. I want them to flesh out the combat, and I like the paradigm aspect too. That would be really cool.
Yeah. Tell you one moment I'm super excited to see, and other than the idea that the next game will potentially open on straight into the calm flashback because it makes sense narratively, and that's one hell of an opening. Right after that, you get to go and catch a chocobo. And
yep.
right after that is getting through the marsh.
Yep, the Midgard's
the idea that you're going to be chased down by the Midgard's through this marsh, and I can picture it in my head as well. You get halfway through, and that becomes its own new dungeon type of thing, and maybe this is a new mechanic that you're avoiding stuff with the chocobo to get to a section, and then in a cutscene it starts chasing you down, and then out of nowhere Sephiroth shows up and just impales it on a tree.
Is it bad that I kind of hope that the Midgard, we actually have to fight the Midgard's in Calm?
Maybe maybe that'll happen. Maybe that'll happen, and Sephiroth shows up and just murders the shit out of it.
I still think it should be when you make it. Well, I guess a part of me thinks it would be really cinematic and really cool looking to fight the Midgard's but I think maybe not, because one of the really cool things about first crossing that marsh is oh, thank God, I could not deal with that Midgard's That thing was too tough. I needed the chocobo, and then you see how easily Sephiroth impaled one on a tree, and it's oh fuck.
Yeah,
that's what I'm dealing with.
The powerlessness of you in that section is extremely important.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It does its job at showing you exactly what the gap is.
A really 100% good job.
What the gap is. It's we just lost everybody a couple times. Had to use how many Phoenix Downs on the Zolom, and then look, there's one on a tree.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's not to talk about the fact that he takes out a freaking dragon that decimates your party in the flashback.
Yeah.
With
the
one
fact
swipe.
That he's hitting for over 4,000 every swipe, and you're just I'm a bitch.
Yeah. I can get there after 60 hours of grinding.
I think that and Gold Saucer are going to be the two peak moments for me.
Yeah.
In the sequel, and potentially the sequel, if it covers that much, because that's the problem as well, isn't it? Is how much is that going to cover?
Yeah.
I've got a feeling it'll probably go up to. I mean, damn, it's hard to say because there's so much padding in this game that it makes it really difficult to kind of imagine.
All we can really theorize, because next immediate events are the only ones we can really speculate on to any moderate success, because anything beyond that is just well, it all depends on how this goes, It's...
Yeah. And you got to think there has to be a narrative end to that section as well, to a second section, and if they're not going to end it at Aerith's supposed death, or whoever dies instead, or whatever happens there instead of in the Forgotten City, because that's so far away, and because originally I thought going into this the second game would cover everything up until the Forgotten City, but with all the padding and this game, it's there can't be a way of getting up to there.
If I had to guess, I would say a really solid stopping point for the next remake game would probably be Nibelheim. You just finish with that really big Nibelheim moment where Cloud returns to Nibelheim, and it's it's not quite what you remember.
Probably. That does seem like it could be a nice place for a final boss, considering there's so many Genova clones there.
And if they have to put in a Sephiroth boss somewhere, Nibelheim seems like a great place to do it, because they will.
Yeah. Because, what? They're going to go through Calm, all the way through. No, they gotta go through Corel too.
You know what?
Yep.
That could be good for a showdown at like Mount Nibel, like in that reactor. Think about all the like the history that's there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that reactor isn't used in that section of the game, so that would be like the perfect place.
So the next remake, if that's what we're thinking it covers up to, that would be Calm, and then after Calm, you would go through the Chocobo ranching, the Mithril mines,
Mithril mine, Junon.
Do you think that they'll do anything with the what's that tower with the Condor, Fort Condor?
Fort Condor.
Or do you think that's just going to be retconned out?
No, it has to be there because it's an important part of.
That's true. It's huge materia. Yeah, it's sitting on the huge materia in the reactor.
And it'd be really cool to have like a side quest there with like the Phoenix having like some kind of like effect on something. I don't necessarily think it might be a massive, because like the implementation of that in the original, it like goes across the entire game. Like you have to keep going back there and like helping them out with their war against Shinra, whatever. I'm thinking maybe like they scale that back and it just becomes some kind of cool side quest or something that you can do, or like a town that you can like. It's not just a small place, but it's like this entire like village that you have to help defend. You know, like Seven Samurai / A Bug's Lifestyle. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm also actually I guess they wouldn't make it to Wutai in this game because you don't get to Wutai until
you get Yuffie though.
Yeah, you get Yuffie. You should get Yuffie around Fort Condor, but you don't actually. She doesn't actually suggest that you go to Wutai until after you get the tiny Bronco, and that's after Nibelheim. That being said,
heard someone say that that's how they're going to reset all your stats and stuff. She's just going to show up and just steal all your material.
That could be.
Could be, yeah.
Speaking of Yuffie, I'm actually really interested to see how Wutai plays out in the rest of the remake.
Yeah, it does seem to have a more important part.
Because, like, in the OG one, they're like, yeah, we had a war with Wutai, it's over, whatever, now it's a tourist spot, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. In the remake, though, a lot of their propaganda is like, oh yeah, Avalanche, they were Wutai supporters. They were Wutai spies. Fuck Wutai, am I right, guys? Like, it's still very prominent that Wutai and Shinra are still butting heads, even though the war is over. It's still very, like, Shinra's very, like, anti-Wutai. We gotta stamp out Wutai. Wutai's still causing problems. So it's gonna be super interesting when you run into Yuffie, the daughter of Wutai, and when you actually get to Wutai and see what it's like there.
Yeah. Yeah.
The part that gets me is they definitely play it up a lot. Like, them being ever present. It almost feels like a weird Cold War situation between Shinra and Wutai.
Oh god, yeah. Yep.
Like, they're just looking for a reason to...
They are really looking for a reason
to dirt them up.
So...
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, wasn't it like... I think it was like before Crisis or something like that. I didn't play it, but I heard someone talking about it. Like, I'm not sure if they're going to bring this up as well in whatever's coming. I think I heard Maximilian Dude talking about this too, but I don't want to spoil it if you don't necessarily know the lore implications of the original Avalanche.
I don't.
Okay. Do you want me to say anything?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So apparently, and I only found this out recently as well, the original Avalanche was funded by Rufus Shinra to undermine his own father.
Oh, that's an What is that ever explicitly stated?
Apparently it's in Before Crisis. I've only heard people talk about it, but like maybe not. So
is Before Crisis the mobile game where you play as the Turks?
Yeah, that's the Turks mobile game. Which
gotcha.
I never managed to get my hands on that either. So.
Same. I don't know if it ever released here. I mean, you could probably get it on some crazy wonky emulator or something, but that would be if that's actually true. That's another sort of brain breaker. Makes sense.
Barrett found that out. He would break.
Man, yeah, Barrett would have some cloud PTSD if he found that out. His whole world would break.
That's his Zack moment.
Yeah, that's his Zack moment.
Cloud got sent to Midgar in that game.
Yeah,
he was there before all of these events, like before Crisis and Crisis Core. He was sent there to protect somebody. I forgot the guy's name from Avalanche.
Oh yeah.
So like Cloud has prior knowledge, but you know, knowing what we know and him getting fucking comatose, he doesn't remember.
Good luck recalling it.
Which is weird. I had a theory, like, very, very early on, which is completely not, you know, doesn't work now. But I thought it would have been fun before I started playing the game. When I started playing it and all this weird stuff started happening from the original trailers, I thought, is this game even taking place, or is this some kind of crazy fever dream that Cloud is having while he's Mako poisoned sitting in that wheelchair?
Wouldn't that be crazy if it was? Like... This whole thing is just his Mako fever dream, and then you're just that would be wild.
Yeah, I mean, like all evidence points to the contrary, but yeah, that was a fun idea that I had until I played the game.
That's gonna be an interesting moment when they recreate it.
I hate you, Final Fantasy 7 Remake. You ruined my theory. I mean, I'm loving this period now, though, where we're gonna have so much theorizing and like just mining for any little bits and pieces of information that we can get from like new art books and stuff.
Yep,
it's gonna be so great.
So I'm thinking that's a pretty solid stopping point for us. I think we've hit a lot of the points. A lot of the technical stuff, a lot of the story stuff, a lot of the theory crafting. Unless there's anything else you guys wanted to talk about that I...
Only important thing, game is amazing. It made me so emotional. It made me cry so much. Like, walking into 7th Heaven, I cried. I walked out of Aerith's guest bedroom, saw that tutorial, hit the forward button, hit my foot, and then started laughing my ass off because they put it straight in front of you, which then turned into tears that I was playing this game. It was so great. Like, the weirdest laugh crying I think I've ever done. That's never happened before, but for a good 5 minutes I was just laughing my ass off. Couldn't stop. But yeah, this game has meant so much to me. And even though we have been a little bit negative, I have loved the experience, and I cannot wait for the next one. And I'm hoping that there is a next one.
Yeah, I'm on the same ship there. I know I can be hypercritical of games, and I know that I guess it's just me, human nature. I focus on a lot of the negative things coming out of it, but everything with that packaged all together, I feel the exact same way. The game was beautiful. I cried at the menu screen. It's like starting up the game, listening to the prelude. That shit got me. It was just absolute in awe over all of the cutscenes themselves. Just how they fleshed it out. I think they did it justice, and I like the direction they're going, and I can't wait for more.
Except for Kyrie, she can go and die in a fire.
Oh my god. Kyrie, bro!
Pseudo Yuffie. Yeah.
That is she. It's definitely pseudo Yuffie. She cute though. You can't.
I gotta give a final promising note though. I loved Leslie.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. Oh, we didn't even talk about new characters and what we thought of them. Like Roche. I love that guy. He's insane.
I don't know how you do that with a bike though. Like obviously video game physics, DK. Obviously this isn't the
way anime works.
They're living in a world where the lifeblood of the planet is being sucked out, put into these tiny little orbs, and putting them on your sword gives you magical powers, and you're worried about real-life physics. But man, the way he flips that motorcycle and just kind of like, oh, yep, I did a wheelie on it, and oh, yep, I just backflipped with no ramp, no momentum, just... It's crazy. And then Cloud does the same thing in Shinra Tower. He just spikes his sword in the ground. I'm just gonna spin my motorcycle on it and just do a...
He picked up those moves from
Yeah.
Well, I sat there watching that scene like, if this were real life, that guy's legs are broken, that guy's dead.
Oh yeah, they're all dead. They're all dead. They're all
just watching. He hit somebody with the wheel of a bike in high speed. I was like, yeah, that guy's dead.
I'm so glad this game exists. It's so wonderfully goofy, and I was so afraid that it would take itself too seriously
Mm-hmm. Yep.
or be too much of a depressed vest, or make Cloud the mopey a-hole he is in Advent Children.
Yep.
Or but the characterization of these characters is so spot on. Aerith. Even I was a little bit afraid with Aerith because, like, in the Sector 5 slums, she's, like, portrayed as this holy, like, you help all the little villagers. Oh, she helps the orphans. Oh, she goes and fetch medicine for the doctor. She's so pure. But, like, even so, she still has that, like, that side of her, which is, like, feisty and like, she can get into trouble, and she's willing to rush into Wool Market, the sleaziest place. And she's like, yeah, I know my way around. I grew up in the slums. Come on.
Yeah. And Barrett. Barrett very quickly became the star of the game for me.
That shit got me.
Hey, I think it got everybody. That if you played the original or you just know that hum, it got you. Because like in the original Final Fantasy VII, I was mildly annoyed with Barrett, but in the remake, he was just like. There were moments, I think, when he really, like, rubs off on you, is those moments where he, like, lets his guard down a little bit, and he interacts with Marlene. Anytime he interacts with Marlene, it's just like, oh my god, Barrett is just this big, squishy teddy bear, and he seems like the nicest person, and he's a good dad, and he's a good person, and... Barrett became one of my favorite characters in this game, which is, like I said, surprising, because I had a disdain for him in the first one.
I feel like he's one of the best characterized characters.
They did him justice. They fleshed him out really well.
Oh yeah.
I think most of the characters got done good. I think Tifa maybe was a little bit underutilized.
Tifa felt like, is it just me, or did Tifa feel like a little more of an airhead than she did in the first Final Fantasy VII, in like the OG one?
Yeah, and I agree. I think she was a little more of an airhead.
I think they stripped back her personality a little bit because, like, she's not being as, like, tomboyish as she seemed in the original. Like, no, she doesn't use expletives at people anymore while they're running upstairs or anything like that.
It's not PC, Tifa. Come on.
It's much more progressive now.
Yeah, way more. But the girl still can climb a flight of stairs.
Yeah,
like, she whoops your ass at those. She's like 5 floors ahead and just like, what? I can't hear you guys.
She did seem like she lost a little bit of her agency in this game. Felt a little bit more damselly, but like that's
the nature of the beast. But yeah, I mean,
she's gonna get so much in the sequels though, and like I relish any time that I can spend controlling the other characters too.
Yep.
That was so good.
If they have some sort of crazy giant play arts Tifa statue, whether she's riding a chocobo or whatever, I'm shilling out the $300 whatever for it. You
might want to get on that because there is a play arts Kai statue for Tifa already.
There is, but I want the one that comes with the game. Because it might not be the same thing, right? They might do like an exclusive run where like she's got I don't know. Because wasn't the Cloud one actually significantly bigger and more detailed than the other one?
I don't know.
Well,
Mia?
I have the first class. I have the Soldier Edition or whatever. Which comes with the Hardy Daytona. I think all of the figures are probably the same size now from this series. It's just that this one comes with a huge freaking
bike.
So yeah, it comes with the Hardy Daytona.
So I kind of want to wait for the special edition and see if it comes with something special.
I mean, worst case scenario, like if it doesn't, then you can just pick up a Tifa then. So.
Yeah, sure. I can just buy the regular one and get the Tifa one. Probably spend less money too.
Yeah.
They'll be cheaper when there's a new
exactly.
Yeah, it's so expensive right now to buy any like high arts figure, anything on the Square Enix store. Jesus Christ! But that's a different conversation.
Yeah, different conversation for a different time. Which, by the way, I feel like at some point we need to come up with a name for this little group of ours, because I feel like now whenever anything sort of Final Fantasy Remake comes out, we should have this sort of Knights of the Round Table type discussion.
Don't taunt me with that summon, dude. I can't wait to ride out there with a gold chocobo and get it.
Knights of the Round Cast. No, that's terrible.
No, Knights of the Podcast. Anyway,
let's keep working.
Yeah, we'll think of something up. Comment section, leave quirky names. But it's interesting. I always thought Knights of the Round Table was like just the most OP summon. You had to have it. When I last played the remake, or not the remake, the OG one, I actually got through Genova Synthesis, Bizarro Sephiroth. By the way, Bizarro Sephiroth, best music in the game. I don't care what any One-Winged Angel fan says. Bizarro Sephiroth has the best music. And Safer Sephiroth, quicker not using Knights of the Round.
Well, it makes the final boss harder, doesn't it? Like,
well,
if you use Knights of the Round?
Yeah, if you use Knights of the Round on Genova Synthesis, apparently that affects how much HP Safer Sephiroth has. Because, like, you hit him so much harder that he gets so much more HP, and it drags out the fight. Since I didn't use Knights of the Round at all, and I just used, like, all-slash, 2x cut, it actually made things quite a bit easier. I just debarriered him, attacked him once with Cloud, once with Yuffie with, I almost called her Yiffy, by the way. Anyway, that's not a Freudian slip, I hope.
Freudian slip!
I hope that's not a Freudian slip. But I did a 2x cut with Yuffie, and he just dead. And I was like, wow, I'd still be sitting through Knights of the Round Table if I had went and got that. So, yeah. Friendly reminder to anybody playing the OG one, you don't need Knights of the Round Table at all. A bunch of wasted time. But anyway, so we'll say that's the end here. If we come up with any more interesting theories, I hope we can all do this again sometime soon when there's more news or when there are more whatevers.
Well, I am on Twitter and Instagram. I am _slap, and on Twitch at just Slap. I am a huge fan of JRPGs, if that wasn't obvious. And yeah, dude, I grew up on Final Fantasy VII. It might have been the first game I ever actually 100%ed back in '97. But yeah, no, dude, I'm looking forward to more. I'm looking forward to being able to talk about it more, and I can't wait to see what they go with it. But yeah, if you want to keep up with my bullshit, that's where you can find me.
Fantastic. Thank you both for joining me. It's been great. It's been almost 2.5 hours. Yeah, like I said, if we come up with any more Final Fantasy stuff to talk about, we can absolutely come back again. And at the first hint, at the first glean of Remake Part 2, we'll for sure do this again, and we'll sort of break down whatever sort of trailer or news or snippet or clip it or art book thing that we can find. So it's great having you all, and I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day. Humanity first. Peace out, everybody.